In 2025, Earth was overwhelmed by otherworldly monsters, and humanity faced a devastating defeat. By 2038, genetic technology created superpowered gene warriors who successfully drove the invaders away. The year 2050 marked the beginning of the gene era, where passing a test at 18 granted superpowers. Now, in 2137, a high school student named Shu Tui stands at the most critical juncture of his life. He looks up to the holographic legends of gene warriors, aspiring to carry their immense responsibility. Shu Tui knows that only passing the unified gene test will save him from being labeled as society's trash. He recalls the endless nights of studying just to earn a ticket to this life-changing exam. The grueling physical training he endured was all to build a body worthy of a warrior. After years of relentless effort, Shu Tui feels confident that his entire future hinges on this single day. As he prepares to move forward, his body unexpectedly falters for a brief moment. He receives a call reminding him that the life-changing injection comes with a 1% chance of death. He confidently tells his mother that his gene double priority status means he can't pass up this opportunity. He calmly downplays the risk of a gene crash, attempting to ease his worried mother's mind. A building-wide announcement summons the students, signaling that the time for the injection has finally arrived. He promises his mother he'll be fine before hanging up to join the other hopefuls entering the building. The interior of the testing facility is a massive, futuristic space, dwarfing the students within. The air is thick with anticipation as other candidates discuss their hopes of activating the elite limit type. He notes the unwavering confidence of his fellow participants, all ready to face their genetic destiny. The time for observation is over as he finally reaches the guarded entrance to the injection chamber. His student code is called out, officially summoning him past the armed guards to receive his injection. A high-tech scanner confirms his identity, clearing him for the most important moment of his life. He walks down a sterile corridor, his mind racing with the possibilities of his future powers. He first imagines awakening a limit-type gene, granting him overwhelming physical strength. Then, his thoughts drift to the superpower type, picturing himself wielding incredible elemental abilities. A flicker of doubt crosses his mind as he hopes to avoid awakening a useless or dangerous power. His thoughts then take a mischievous turn, considering the more practical applications of a simple ability. He cheekily imagines the unique advantages such a power would grant him, finding the prospect quite appealing. Nearby, other students debate the risks, one terrified by online stories of the 1% who don't survive. His friend scoffs at the fear, focusing instead on the 99% chance of a glorious, awakened life. The nervous student can't shake his terror, knowing that a 1% chance of oblivion is still a terrifying gamble. A cocky student named Zhao Tian is called next, boasting that he'll awaken an incredible power. Shu Tui observes calmly, hoping his own awakening will grant him a useful ability. His attention is caught by a holographic sign displaying his number. His turn is approaching. Taking a steadying breath, he prepares himself for the moment that will define his future. Just as the next student reaches for the door, the unthinkable happens. A fiery explosion erupts from the injection room, blasting the door open and sending a body flying. Shu Tui stares in disbelief, the brutal reality of the 1% risk unfolding before his eyes. Panic spreads through the waiting students as they recognize the victim as the one who just entered. The unfortunate candidate is consumed by an uncontrolled burst of fiery energy, his body unable to contain the power. Medical staff scramble to douse the flames and administer emergency aid, a stark reminder of the injection's deadly side effects. The student's body is completely overwhelmed by the raw, untamed energy of his newly awakened power. Emergency personnel rush in, desperately trying to contain the disastrous outcome with a fire extinguisher. A grim official confirms the student's fate, noting this is the 5th fatal gene crash of the day. The students learn the tragic irony. The boy awakened a powerful flame type, only for it to destroy him. Panic finally breaks the crowd's resolve as some students decide to flee the deadly facility. Shu Tui watches in silence as the staff unceremoniously cover the remains of the fallen candidate. The student who was previously nervous is now paralyzed by terror, wondering if he's next to die. Just as the horror sinks in, the holographic sign above the door flashes, calling the next number 25. Shu Tui's blood runs cold as he realizes his own number has been called, forcing him to face the deadly chamber. He clenches his fist, his fear giving way to a steely resolve not to back down now. He decides that a life of mediocrity is a fate worse than death, his dreams reaching for the stars. With newfound courage, he knocks on the door and announces his presence, ready to face what's inside. A voice from within grants him entry, a holographic screen glowing in the official's hand. He steps into the sterile room, where a woman with long silver hair immediately confirms his identity. The official pulls up his file on a holographic display, explaining that a pre-injection interview is standard procedure. Her gaze is piercing and cold as she directly questions his awareness of the lethal risks involved. Xu Tui meets her stare without flinching, affirming his willingness to accept any outcome. She presents the syringe, giving him one final opportunity to reconsider activating his genes. A flash of doubt hits him as he recalls the recent tragedy, but his resolve to not fail overpowers his fear. He pushes all hesitation aside, his eyes burning with conviction as he gives his final, unwavering consent. The official prepares the injection, instructing Xu Tui to remove his pants. Xu Tui reacts with surprise to the unexpected instruction. The official explains the unconventional injection method for maximum effectiveness. Xu Tui reluctantly complies with the unusual request. Xu Tui braces himself for the injection, a mix of anticipation and apprehension on his face. The injection is administered, a bright flash emanating from the point of contact. The official confirms the injection's success and monitors Xu Tui's vital signs. Xu Tui reports no immediate changes or unusual sensations. After some time, Xu Tui still shows no signs of gene activation. The official explains that any reaction, even negative, would indicate the injection's efficacy. The horrifying possibility of a complete failure dawns on him. 30 minutes later, the monitor beeps, confirming a total lack of any reaction. Even the seasoned official is perplexed, admitting she's never encountered this situation before. The observation period concludes, and she instructs him to get up from the bed. He sits up, sensing a strange, unsettling feeling despite the apparent failure. Suddenly, his world glitches, his vision inverting as an unknown power surges within him. He lurches forward with a silent scream, reaching out blindly as the power overwhelms him. He collapses onto the bed, writhing in agony as an immense pressure builds in his head. His face contorts in a silent, agonizing scream as the internal pressure becomes unbearable. The official's analysis reveals his vitals are critical, with his body temperature and heart rate soaring chaotically. He reaches out desperately, his body convulsing as the unknown power tears through him. His vision blurs, a single terrifying thought echoing in his mind. This is how he dies. His consciousness drifts into a black void, feeling weightless as he questions his own demise. He finds himself as a small figure floating within a colossal, serene blue energy being. Snapping back to a semblance of reality, he stares in awe at the strange new world before him. He stands before a giant, ethereal version of himself, questioning what this cosmic being could be. His attention is drawn to 14 glowing points of light, forming a constellation on the entity's chest. Back in the physical world, the official initiates an emergency procedure to save his life. A powerful jolt courses through his body as the medical staff attempt to stabilize his failing system. The official notes that the shock treatment has successfully restored his vital signs, pulling him back from the brink. Xu Tui awakens, disoriented and clutching his chest, trying to process his near-death experience. The official reveals a shocking discovery on her holographic display. He's activated 14 mysterious gene points. He erupts with joy, believing he's hit the genetic jackpot with such a rare and numerous activation. His celebration is cut short when he learns his power falls under the less-than-glamorous wisdom type. The official prepares to finalize his results, informing him this last test will be permanently recorded in the system. Now dressed, he voices his concern, fearing a future stuck in a boring office job instead of on the battlefield. She dismisses his complaints with an icy stare, telling him the data is clear and final. Undeterred, he presses on, eagerly asking what specific ability he has gained from this awakening. She coolly explains that activating gene points is no guarantee of a usable power, especially for the enigmatic, mysterious type. A skeptical smirk crosses his face, unconvinced by her vague and dismissive explanation. The official offers Xu Tui her name card. She suggests he contact her about Huaxia Gene Evolution University. Xu Tui considers the offer, intrigued. He reads the card, noting her title and affiliation. Xu Tui is surprised by the official's youthful appearance and high rank. He prepares to leave, thanking the official. Xu Tui reaches for the door handle. The official stops him with a sudden call. Xu Tui turns back, questioning her intent. She gives him a cryptic warning about a mysterious organization. She questions his knowledge of a shadowy organization called Hope Redemption. Xu Tui racks his brain, vaguely recalling the infamous name from his studies. The official explains they are traitors who sided with the otherworldly invaders against humanity. This shadowy group is known for its ruthless and decisive methods. Their betrayal is the very reason humanity struggled to gain an advantage in the last Great War. She reveals the organization is now kidnapping gifted students for sinister experiments. A cold sweat breaks out on Xu Tui's face as he realizes his 14 gene points make him a prime target. He leaves the testing facility, the weight of this new danger settling upon him. He wonders if his unknown ability will be enough to protect him from this looming threat. His mind flashes back to the ethereal being, connecting the 14 points of light to his newfound power. He clutches his throbbing head, the phantom vision still haunting him as he recovers from the injection's after effects. A familiar voice cuts through his thoughts, and he turns to see who called his name. His face lights up with a wide grin as he recognizes his two best friends approaching. His buddies, Chung Mo and Tang Ting, immediately grill him for the details on his gene point activation. Tang Ting playfully mocks another friend for activating 11 points concentrated in his stomach, predicting a future of competitive eating. Chung Mo despairs over his own results, comically weeping that his powers are destined for nothing more than a massive appetite. Tang Ting offers a wild theory, suggesting Chung Mo could eat his way to the highest evolutionary rank. Fed up with the teasing, Chung Mo's frustration boils over and he glares at his friend. Chung Mo gets his revenge, trapping Tang Ting in a headlock while exposing his friend's own embarrassing power focused on hand speed. With his friend subdued, Chung Mo shifts his focus back to Xu Tui, demanding to know his results. Xu Tui calmly reveals he activated an astonishing 14 gene points. His friend's jaws drop in complete shock at the unbelievable number. Chung Mo's awe turns to adoration as he declares Xu Tui a prodigy, vowing to follow him. Xu Tui interrupts the praise to clarify that all his activated points are the wisdom type. The celebratory mood shatters as his friends stare, dumbfounded by this disappointing revelation. Chung Mo voices his concern, noting the notorious difficulty wisdom types face in finding a good career. Tang Ting unhelpfully recalls a relative with the same power who ended up a host after a failed career as a monk. Xu Tui glares at his friend. Chung Mo enthusiastically suggests a celebratory buffet. Xu Tui declines, feigning a headache to excuse himself. Chung Mo and Tang Ting express concern for Xu Tui's well-being. News reports highlight missing students and a celebrity scandal. Xu Tui sees a disturbing news report about Hope Redemption. Xu Tui experiences a sudden sharp headache. He realizes the headache might be related to his new abilities. Xu Tui's new power activates, scanning his surroundings. His enhanced perception reveals a hidden scene. Xu Tui's new power gives him an X-ray view of the restaurant. He can perceive the layout and occupants with surprising clarity. His vision penetrates walls, revealing the bustling kitchen. The details become less clear at greater distances. Xu Tui focuses his mind, attempting to refine his new ability. He tries to zoom in on a specific object, but struggles. He realizes the limits of his current perception. Xu Tui decides to continue experimenting with his power. He walks away from the restaurant, deep in thought. A strange premonition washes over him. Xu Tui walks down a futuristic city street, a look of concern on his face. His surroundings blur as he senses something amiss. He glances back, suspecting he's being followed. Hiding behind a wall, a sinister figure confirms Xu Tui's suspicions. The city's holographic advertisements and futuristic architecture create a vibrant backdrop. Xu Tui continues walking, seemingly unaware of the figures trailing him. He realizes he's being followed by 3 individuals. The 3 followers maintain their distance, studying Xu Tui's movements. Xu Tui contemplates his options, realizing the danger of alerting his pursuers. He remembers something that might help him. He slips the official's card into his pocket, weighing his options for staying safe. Meanwhile, at the Jincheng government office, a high-level meeting is underway. A decorated colonel, Liu Tianhu, delivers a stern warning about maintaining discipline. He sits at the head of a holographic table, promising to personally handle any troublemakers. Suddenly, Professor Anne looks up from her device, her expression showing she has urgent business. She rises from her seat, boldly interrupting the colonel's authoritative speech. Professor Anne confronts Director Zhou, revealing Xu Tui has sent a distress signal and questioning if the director's men are responsible. The colonel glares at the director, demanding to know what's going on with this student. Director Zhou calmly explains that the stalkers are his own SWAT team, assigned to protect Xu Tui. Professor Anne remains skeptical, questioning the need for a 3-man detail on a single wisdom-type student. Director Zhou reveals the extra presence is due to their plan. Professor An is shocked to hear there are 3 individuals involved. Director Zhou clarifies he only dispatched 2 agents, raising suspicion. Professor Anne deduces the 3rd person is likely from Hope Redemption. She demands Director Zhou take action against the unknown threat. Director Zhou attempts to justify maintaining the current security detail. Professor An questions Director Zhou's inaction regarding the potential threat. Jin Qiang suggests using Xu Tui as bait to lure out Hope Redemption. Professor An is furious at the idea of using a student as bait. The colonel reveals he authorized the risky plan. The colonel defends his decision, arguing the plan is necessary to capture the traitors from Hope Redemption. Professor Anne furiously objects, refusing to let them use a student with 14 activated gene points as bait. He coldly dismisses her concerns, stating that sacrificing one student is a worthy trade to save thousands. She clenches her fist in disbelief as he cites wartime regulations to justify his ruthless calculus. Disgusted by their decision, Professor An announces she is leaving the meeting immediately. The colonel's eye flashes red as he orders an officer to stop her from interfering with the operation. An officer named Q Qiang intercepts her, warning that her actions could jeopardize the mission and lead to severe consequences. She reluctantly agrees to stay but makes it clear she won't guarantee Xu Tui's cooperation. The colonel then instructs Q Qiang to send a message to reassure the boy, but to keep him in the dark about the trap. As she prepares the message, Professor An can only hope that Xu Tui is clever enough to survive what's coming. Xu Tui's phone finally buzzes with a new message, a reply he's been desperately waiting for. He reads the text from Professor An, confirming 2 of his followers are SWAT agents assigned to protect him. The message also warns that the 3rd follower is an unknown threat, making Xu Tui question the agent's inaction. A horrifying realization dawns on him. He's being used as bait and must take matters into his own hands. He formulates a plan on the spot and confidently walks into a nearby tea shop. A cheerful employee greets him at the counter, completely unaware of the danger lurking outside. He takes a seat with a clear view of the street, keeping a watchful eye on his surroundings. He places a bizarre order for a bubble tea made with boiling hot water, perplexing the staff. With the scalding drink in hand, he thanks the employee, his plan now in motion. He gives a knowing wink as he exits the shop, ready to turn the tables on his pursuers. Xu Tui walks away from the tea shop, his pursuers in sight. One of the followers bids him a seemingly friendly farewell. The follower reveals a more menacing demeanor. Xu Tui senses the danger and prepares for a confrontation. He casually sips his hot tea, a plan forming in his mind. Xu Tui accelerates, initiating his counterattack. He swiftly turns and throws the scalding tea. The follower reacts in pain as the hot liquid makes contact. The follower recoils, clutching his face in agony. Xu Tui delivers a powerful kick, taking advantage of the distraction. The 3rd follower lunges forward, revealing his sinister plan to capture Xu Tui by any means necessary. Xu Tui looks up in alarm as the attacker descends upon him like a shadow. Just in time, one of the undercover SWAT agents intercepts the assailant with a flying kick. The agent is violently thrown back by the sheer force of the counterattack, shattering a nearby window. He collapses in pain, realizing his opponent possesses a powerful leg-based gene ability. With a pained shout, the agent exposes the attacker as a member of the infamous Hope Redemption. The traitor stands his ground as the other SWAT agent calls for backup, the situation escalating rapidly. The crowd murmurs in terror, recognizing the name of the organization that betrayed humanity. Chaos ensues as civilians scramble for safety, desperate to escape the dangerous confrontation. The SWAT agents express their frustration, realizing their carefully laid trap has just been sprung prematurely. The 2 SWAT agents stare down the traitor, realizing their plan has gone completely sideways. The traitor smirks with contempt, disappointed by the small number of agents sent to challenge him. Deciding to ignore the taunts, the remaining agent signals his partner to attack and capture their target. The agents charge forward in a pincer attack, but the traitor proves to be a formidable opponent. Xu Tui watches in shock, realizing the traitor is far more powerful than he could have imagined. The traitor's speed is overwhelming, allowing him to land a powerful, staggering punch on one agent. Panic sets in as Xu Tui realizes the traitor is easily dispatching his protectors to get to him. Just as he panics, a sharp, debilitating pain erupts in his head, his powers flaring uncontrollably. He slumps to the ground amidst the shattered glass, overcome with frustration at his own weakness. Despite his helplessness, a fire ignites in his eyes, refusing to accept his fate as a victim. He curses his luck, frustrated that his incredible potential is trapped within the useless wisdom type. His consciousness is suddenly pulled back into the cosmic void, face to face with the giant ethereal being. He confirms that the 14 glowing orbs on the entity represent his awakened gene points. He then deduces that the numerous gray spots must be the dormant genes yet to be unlocked. A sudden epiphany strikes him as he realizes his wisdom-type power is a form of internal body mapping. He observes the flow of energy within the ethereal form, wondering if he can manipulate it to his will. With newfound resolve, he reaches out, determined to control the energy flowing within him. He focuses his will, and a surge of power responds, flowing through his ethereal counterpart. The raw energy is overwhelming, causing him immense pain as he struggles to contain it within his body. Against all odds, his effort causes a new, previously dormant gene point to ignite with brilliant light. A brilliant flash of light signals the successful activation of a brand new gene point. Back in the real world, the traitor lands a brutal blow, sending a SWAT agent reeling. A cruel smirk plays on his lips as he relishes the one-sided beatdown. He effortlessly dodges the other agent's attack, moving with blinding speed. The traitor easily overpowers his second opponent, mocking the agent's weakness. With both protectors down, he complains that the fight was a waste of his strength. He turns his attention to Shu Tui, telling the boy to give up all hope. The villain looms over his target, declaring that no one is coming to the rescue. He reaches down to capture Shu Tui, his face twisting into a sinister, shadowy grin. But the traitor's confidence falters as he sees a defiant, unexpected fire ignite in Shu Tui's eyes. Shu Tui unleashes a devastating kick, catching the traitor completely off guard. The villain roars in agony, his overconfidence shattered by the sudden powerful strike. The force of the blow sends the Hope Redemption member flying across the street. He lands with a bone-jarring impact, sprawled out and defeated on the pavement. The SWAT agents stare in disbelief, questioning how a wisdom type could possess such strength before deciding to capture him. Lying on the ground, the traitor glares up, utterly humiliated by his unexpected defeat. The agents waste no time, pinning the downed villain and placing him under arrest. Meanwhile, back at the command center, the high-ranking officials continue to monitor the operation. Professor Anne grows anxious, wondering about Shu Tui's fate since he hasn't responded to her message. Her colleague receives an urgent call, his expression turning serious as he's interrupted mid-meeting. An urgent call interrupts the meeting, startling an official. The colonel listens intently, demanding to know what's happening. The official relays news about Shu Tui, causing concern. The colonel explodes with anger, questioning their competence. The official explains Shu Tui's unexpected actions and their positive outcome. The colonel realizes the plan has backfired, revealing a critical detail. Professor Anne demands answers, suspecting a leak. Professor Anne suggests reviewing her message for clues. The colonel contemplates the situation, his expression grim. The colonel orders an investigation and assigns a hefty punishment. The scene shifts to Jin City's SWAT office, a towering, futuristic structure. The investigation into the third follower reveals his identity and a peculiar nickname. The officials discuss the stalker's high rank within Hope Redemption and its implications. They speculate on why the SWAT agents were easily overpowered by the traitor. The officials inquire about Shu Tui's current state and whereabouts. Shu Tui's post-incident hunger leads to a surprising display of appetite. Shu Tui reflects on the physical toll of using his newfound ability. He worries about the potential consequences of revealing his powers. A chibi-style explanation of gene awakening begins. The chibi official details the requirements for gene liberation and the injection process. A chibi Shu Tui flexes, surrounded by glowing gene points, showcasing the concept of gene awakening. Chibi Shu Tui demonstrates his new perception, sensing the layout and activity inside the restaurant. A chibi official explains that Shu Tui's perception is a standard projection, not a special ability. Shu Tui recounts receiving a text from his teacher, raising suspicions about the third follower. Shu Tui explains his actions to an official, highlighting his bravery in the face of danger. An official praises Shu Tui's performance and potential, while another suspects a leaked text. Shu Tui politely inquires about when he can leave, eager to return home after the ordeal. An official offers Shu Tui a reward and a non-disclosure agreement for his cooperation. Shu Tui contemplates the reward, realizing its significance despite not raising his citizen rank. Director Zhou assures Shu Tui the reward is substantial, emphasizing its value. Shu Tui questions if he'll be used as bait again. He reaches for the door, ready to leave. An official explains the dangers faced by awakened individuals. The official reveals other students are also under protection. E-rank energy refill medicine. An explanation reveals these supplements are restricted, with the E-rank version costing 50 times more than the standard F-rank. He realizes the gift's true value, as his father had to use his special authority to acquire it. His father reveals he saved up credits for years, while his mother warns him to stay away from the Ruth. His eyes, focusing his mind and turning his attention inward. His consciousness enters the cosmic void, his ethereal form crackling with energy under the constellation of his gene points. With a surge of determination, he opens his eyes, ready to unlock his true potential. He focuses his will, channeling a torrent of energy through his ethereal legs. The immense power builds in his physical body, causing him excruciating pain as it concentrates in a single point. Within the void, the concentrated energy finally splits, forging a new path. 2 new gene points ignite on his legs, shining with the brilliance of his successful awakening. Back in reality, he gasps for air, the intense effort leaving him completely drained. He collapses onto his bed, exhausted but exhilarated by his success in activating 2 genes at once. The mental strain leaves him with a splitting headache, realizing the energy supplement can't restore his spirit. He understands that to continue this rapid growth, he must find a way to strengthen his mental fortitude. A sudden call from his mother breaks his concentration, pulling him from his thoughts. He springs from his bed with newfound agility, eager to see what she wants. He lands with a powerful impact, bracing himself against the floor with a grimace. The force of his jump sends him tumbling over furniture, creating a loud crash that alerts his mother. He quickly recovers, realizing with a jolt of excitement that his left leg's power has significantly increased. His concerned parents burst into the room, fearing the worst after hearing the commotion. Their worry instantly turns to wide-eyed shock as they get a good look at their son. Xu stands confidently, revealing a surprisingly muscular physique and casually announcing his hunger. His parents marvel at his transformation, playfully poking at the muscles that have replaced his once skinny frame. He reflects on his training, realizing that activating one gene point can unexpectedly enhance other parts of his body. Deciding to confirm his theory, he prepares a simple test to gauge his new capabilities. He effortlessly crushes a metal can, a clear demonstration of his dramatically improved physical strength. He acknowledges his increased finger strength, but knows power alone isn't enough for precision. His attempt to throw playing cards fails miserably, proving he lacks the necessary control. His attention shifts to a bowl of soybeans, sparking a new and better idea for a projectile. He reasons that unlike flimsy cards, the dense soybeans will make for a much more stable and effective weapon. With a powerful kick, he launches a single soybean at the crushed can with blinding speed. The tiny soybean impacts the can with explosive force, completely shattering the metal. He's stunned by the sheer destructive power, imagining the lethal potential of a metal projectile. A confident smile spreads across his face, knowing he now has a hidden ace for self-defense. The scene changes to a massive, futuristic station, where countless students gather to depart for university. Amidst a shower of confetti, the students wave farewell to their city, ready to start their new lives. Cheng Mo confidently reassures Xu Tui's mother that he'll protect his friend at university. While snacking, Cheng Mo wonders aloud why their other friend, Tang Ting, didn't come to see them off. Xu Tui drops a bombshell, revealing Tang Ting has enrolled in the Huaxia Jin Army Military University. Cheng Mo is outraged by the secret, but Xu Tui explains their friend was afraid and accepted a generous offer to join a frontline unit after graduation. The mood darkens as Cheng Mo recalls the grim reality, a 20% death rate for frontline soldiers. Xu Tui remains optimistic, reminding his friend that Tang Ting's speed and strength make him a natural for combat. A final boarding call echoes across the massive transport hub, urging all students to get on board. With a final wave, Xu Tui says goodbye to his parents, who watch him leave for his new life. Inside the transport vehicle, the students settle in, each lost in their own thoughts about the future. Cheng Mo excitedly declares his new mission is to find a girlfriend, much to Xu Tui's unamused indifference. A fellow student recognizes Cheng Mo, mocking his big eater reputation and his ban from city cafeterias. The gossip spreads as another student scoffs at Cheng Mo's romantic ambitions, sarcastically calling him a campus hunk. A silver-haired student turns to confront the gossiper, his expression hardening with irritation. He Mingxuan coldly tells the student to be quiet, questioning his need to constantly run his mouth. The gossiper smirks back, seeing no issue with simply speaking the truth about their classmate. The tension escalates as the two square up, ready to throw down over the insults. A sharp voice cuts through the confrontation, demanding to know what's going on. An official flanked by armed guards appears, ordering them to take their fight elsewhere if they insist on brawling. A friend intervenes, holding He Mingxuan back and advising him not to cause trouble with a teacher present. He Mingxuan shoots a final icy glare at the gossiper, warning him to show some basic respect in the future. He Mingxuan issues a stern warning to the other students. An official introduces himself as Cha Yifeng, the trip's leader. Cha Yifeng hints at potential dangers during the journey. Xu Tui is advised to be cautious and observe his surroundings. The top student Tong Qi is introduced, highlighting his impressive gene activation. Xu Tui learns about Tong Qi's protected status due to his potential. The genius girl Gong Ling is introduced, capturing Cheng Mo's attention. Cheng Mo's reaction to Gong Ling draws Xu Tui's amusement. Gong Ling disembarks, her elegant boots clicking on the floor. Anne's arrival surprises Xu Tui and Cheng Mo. The students are captivated as Professor Anne makes her way through the vehicle, her presence commanding attention. She introduces herself as An Xiao Shui, the escort teacher, and sets clear expectations for discipline on the journey. Xu Tui is taken aback, realizing the high-ranking official from his gene test is now his chaperone. A massive convoy of transport snakes through a rugged mountain pass, a testament to the scale of the operation. In a mobile command center, an officer confirms all vehicles are on the move with communication jammers active. The colonel explains that this time of year is prime hunting season for traitorous groups looking to kidnap gifted students. An aide details their complex strategy, a randomized route and a scattered convoy to make finding the real targets nearly impossible. The colonel's eyes glow with intensity as he warns that Vehicle 3 is the highest priority, and failure is not an option. A grim realization dawns on Shu Tui. He's in a vehicle full of top-tier students painting a massive target on their backs. He gazes out the window, connecting the dots as he realizes their strange route is a deliberate attempt to outmaneuver their unseen enemies. The transport speeds through a bizarre, alien-like forest, a clear sign of the untamed world outside the city. A silver-haired student gazes out the window, wistfully wondering if he'll ever get to explore the wild countryside. An official's voice crackles over the intercom, announcing their approach to the first resupply point. He issues a stern warning. They have only 3 minutes for the break, and straying too far means getting shot. The convoy pulls up to a massive, heavily fortified structure designated as Supply Point Number 1. Inside the walls, the students disembark under the watchful eyes of patrolling jets and armed guards. The sheer scale of the military presence leaves the students completely stunned and intimidated. A cold sweat drips down Shu Tui's face as he understands the true gravity of armed soldiers guard the area, warning that it is extremely dangerous. A man in a red jacket orders everyone to quickly return to their vehicles after the break. Shu Tui contemplates the strategic importance of even mundane locations. He notices something unexpected. His curiosity piqued. Shu Tui investigates the source of his suspicion. He questions the unusual presence in the restroom. Shu Tui uses his newfound ability to investigate further. He identifies the ability he's using as telepathy. Shu Tui reacts to a surprising mental contact. He recognizes the voice in his head. Professor Cha reacts with urgency. Shu Tui questions the professor's strange behavior. The guards question Shu Tui, repeating his bizarre claim about the nervous teacher. He clarifies that the professor didn't eat anything, but merely held something in his mouth. His explanation is met with roaring laughter from the two guards, who find the story absurd. They turn the tables, asking why he was spying on his teacher in the first place. With time running out, Shu Tui abandons the conversation and sprints for the transport. He races against the final boarding call with Professor Cha watching him approach. The professor greets him with sarcasm, but Shu Tui fires back a witty retort. Shu Tui boldly confronts the professor, directly asking. Professor Cha grinds his teeth, his expression a mixture of anger and anxiety. A sudden realization hits Shu Tui. The professor's 2 front teeth are definitely not normal dentures. He considers alerting the guards but stops himself, knowing he lacks proof and could tip off his target. Desperate for a solution, 2 massive beasts, a tiger and a wolf, lunge towards her with ferocious intent. She unleashes her projectiles, sending the energized orbs hurtling towards the monstrous creatures. A whirlwind of purple energy erupts around her, striking down the surrounding pack of smaller beasts. The students can only stare in stunned silence, leaps from the damaged vehicle, launching projectiles. Frustrated, the creature questions the delayed support. Purple energy streaks through the air, signaling an incoming attack. A silver-haired individual focuses intently, preparing to act. A pink energy shield deflects incoming projectiles. The silver-haired individual unleashes methods to break the captured spy. Professor Cha's bravado shatters as he realizes his legal rights are now irrelevant. Terrified, he suddenly offers to cooperate, promising to reveal everything he knows. Professor An coldly informs him it's too late, as his information is now useless and his fate is sealed. He pleads for mercy as she prepares to deliver a final, decisive judgment. Her eyes glow with cold fury as she reveals her absolute contempt for traitors. Professor Cha is left completely broken by the intense interrogation, his defiance shattered. The colonel steps forward, drawing a blade to deliver the final, decisive judgment. Shu Tui and Gongling watch the grim proceedings, their expressions a mix of shock and resolve. The colonel dictates the official report, creating a cover story for the traitor's demise. An official confirms the fabricated report as Shu Tui listens intently, now a witness to military justice. The commander then turns his full attention to Shu Tui, addressing him by name for the first time. He praises Shu Tui's exceptional talent, acknowledging his crucial role in uncovering 2 separate threats. Shu Tui humbly accepts the praise, though he's clearly taken aback by the high-level recognition. Are stunned, realizing the commander had orchestrated the entire interrogation from the beginning. Professor An warns them that the day's events were merely an appetizer for the dangers that lie ahead. She stresses that only through relentless effort will they have a chance to survive in the brutal gene age. As they walk through the heavily guarded encampment, she imparts their first and most important lesson: self-preservation. The next day, massive aerial transports escort the student convoy across a desolate, rocky landscape. Gongling notes that with the new air support, the rebels wouldn't dare to attack them now. An injured student on a stretcher recalls the previous day's chaos, awestruck by the power of the enemy who nearly wiped them out. Professor An explains the enemy was a powerful B-class mutant who used the terrain to his advantage. Gongling reflects on her own plant-based powers, noting their situational limitations during the fight. Shu Tui, ever curious, boldly asks Professor An about her own power level. She reveals she's currently a C-class mutant, a surprisingly low rank for her demonstrated power. Shu Tui is stunned, wondering how a C-class mutant could hold such a high position at the university. The professor clarifies that different university departments have varying power requirements, with special abilities sometimes trumping raw rank. Intrigued, Gongling eagerly asks about the professor's unique special ability. Instead of answering, Professor An imparts a grim lesson. Never reveal your abilities if you want to survive. She reveals she's learned this lesson the hard way, having been targeted and paid a heavy price for her power. The students fall silent, with Gongling apologizing as they finally grasp the weight of her warning. Shu Tui questions the wisdom of reporting their abilities upon enrollment, recalling her recent warning. Professor An explains the data is confidential, though her slight hesitation suggests it's not foolproof. He correctly interprets her vague reassurance as a sign that their information is still at risk. Their conversation is cut short as the transport arrives, revealing the stunning futuristic cityscape. The students marvel at the capital city of Kyoto, a dazzling metropolis of flying vehicles and holographic displays. Two students weep with envy at the sight of million-dollar hoverboards, feeling poor in comparison. A more cynical student scoffs at their excitement, dismissing them as inexperienced outsiders. Gongling, however, is simply captivated by the breathtaking view of the advanced city. Chungmo cheekily points out to a surprised Shu Tui that Gongling has been sticking close to him. With a knowing grin, he wonders if her attention is due to gratitude or romantic interest. Chungmo reacts with playful disbelief to Shu Tui's observation. He tries to deflect, pretending they were just casually chatting. The students arrive at the Huaxia Gene Evolution University. An official briefs the new arrivals about the entrance test. Chungmo and the others discuss their predicament after the attack. Medical staff approach Chungmo, recognizing him as an injured student. Chungmo inquires about the cost of the offered medical treatment. Shu Tui quickly arranges for a meal, impressing the medical staff. Chungmo boasts about his upcoming interactions with the nurses. Shu Tui and Gongling react to Chungmo's enthusiastic behavior. Shu Tui finally arrives at his futuristic dorm room, dragging his luggage and the weight of his journey. Leaning against the door, he exhales in relief, still processing the unexpected. His determination solidifies as he decides to unlock the gene points in his left hand, aiming to perfect his projectile ability. Shu Tui awakens, realizing he fell asleep on the floor after his training. He stretches, surprised to find himself sprawled out on the dorm room floor. He wonders how he ended up sleeping there instead of his bed. He realizes he must have collapsed from exhaustion after his intense gene activation. Professor An unexpectedly enters his room to close his eyes, adding to the mystery. She places a piece of paper in front of him, asking him to read it with his eyes closed. He successfully reads the paper telepathically, confirming his newfound ability. Professor An advises Shu Tui to get dressed. Shu Tui is bewildered by the early morning interruption. A cheerful senior student bursts in, ready to escort Shu Tui. Chungmo observes the scene with a surprised expression. The senior an unknown document. He's relieved to discover it's a battle report, not a contract. His shock turns to disbelief as he reads the report, claiming he killed someone. Professor An insists Shu Tui take credit for the capture, pointing out the hefty government rewards that come with it. Realizing the distinction between assisting and killing, Shu Tui eagerly signs the report to secure his reward. With the paperwork settled, she hands the report back and instructs him to head to the test with his escort. The senior student, who has been eavesdropping the whole time, looks utterly stunned by what he's overheard. The door slides open and Professor An steps out, completely unaware of her audience. He tries to play it cool as the professor walks past, but his awkward posture gives him away. He watches her disappear down the corridor, his mind racing with what he just learned. Shu Tui emerges from his room, ready for the test, and finds his escort still looking dazed. The senior grabs Shu Tui, praising him for supposedly winning over the university's iceberg goddess in a single night. A flustered Shu Tui quickly clarifies the misunderstanding, explaining it was just official business about the ambush. The senior points out Shu Tui's private room as proof of special treatment, but Shu Tui explains his roommate is in the medical center. The senior's imagination runs wild, believing Shu Tui injured his roommate for a private meeting with the professor. Annoyed, Shu Tui realizes he must silence the gossiping senior before the rumors destroy his school life. He changes tactics, proposing a friendly bet to settle the matter once and for all. Shu Tui challenges the senior to dodge a single projectile. Failure means eternal silence about the morning's events. The senior smirks, confidently accepting the freshman's challenge, seeing it as an easy victory. He reveals he's a C-rank liberator from the Extreme Department, specializing in speed and reaction time. The gray-eyed young man confidently states that his nerve reaction speed is only 0.01 seconds and questions if his opponent really wants to challenge him. His eyes flash with determination as he prepares to strike. The blonde tries to counter the move but is shocked by the incredible speed, realizing his opponent is unbelievably fast. The senior student reacts with surprise as a projectile approaches. The projectile hits its mark, stunning the senior. Shutui declares victory, reminding the senior of their wager. The senior accuses Shutui of cheating, pointing out the unexpected second projectile. Shutui calmly explains he didn't break the rules of their agreement. The senior is taken aback, realizing he's been outsmarted. Shutui reveals he used half a projectile in each hand. The senior is annoyed, realizing he fell for Shutui's trick. The senior concedes defeat, promising to keep quiet. Shutui reflects on his successful gene activation and increased skill. The senior cheekily demands payment for the damaged door, leaving Shutui speechless. They arrive at the massive, high-tech testing center where his future will be decided. The senior makes a quick exit to get his teeth checked, leaving Shutui to face the test alone. Shutui breezes into the wisdom department's test, noting the lack of a line for the unpopular major. An examiner reviews his file, confirming his 20 gene points and a low C rank, but also his special sensing ability. She directs him to another department to test his sensing, hinting at a potential rank upgrade. The young man walks down the corridor, thinking that the test in the wisdom department is very casual, and just looking at the laboratory sheet is enough. He wonders how to pass the sensing ability test without drawing too much attention while still raising his evaluation level. As he approaches the door with the other participants, he prepares for his turn. Standing among them, he looks ahead with surprise, anticipating what will happen next. Shutui sweats, seemingly nervous about something. In a futuristic testing room, an examiner focuses on a mysterious box. The examiner announces Shutui's initial test results. A silver-haired student contemplates Shutui's potential. The silver-haired student focuses intently, seemingly using a special ability. The examiner records the range of Shutui's sensing ability. The examiner considers manipulating the test results. The examiner reacts to something unexpected. The silver-haired student worries he's been discovered. The silver-haired student feigns eye discomfort, hoping to avoid suspicion. The silver-haired student decides to finish the test quickly. The examiner at the wisdom department explains the test. Shutui is instructed to describe the contents of a mysterious box. Shutui confirms he's ready for the test. He focuses his senses, trying to see the contents of the box. He reports the range of his sensing ability. He realizes his ability has improved since leaving home. Shutui contemplates the benefits and risks of being a spy. Shutui records his observations on the admission test form. The examiner delivers Shutui's initial test results and further instructions. A professor approaches Shutui wanting a private word. He introduces himself as Professor Q from the sensory department. Shutui wonders why a sensory professor is interested in a wisdom student. He suspects the professor might know about his falsified report. Professor Q offers Shutui a special recruitment quota. The senior student is shocked by the professor's generous offer. Shutui is surprised to see the senior student there. He considers the benefits of the special admissions offer. He weighs the pros and cons of switching departments. Shutui politely declines the offer, sticking with his chosen path. The senior student is baffled by Shutui's hesitation, urging him to simply accept the incredible offer. Professor Q clarifies that any transfer requires the signature of Shutui's current professor. The senior insists Professor An will approve, trying to convince a stubborn Shutui not to pass up the chance. Professor Q's demeanor instantly changes to one of shock upon learning Shutui's mentor is in Xiaoxu. The senior proudly confirms the connection, causing the professor to break out in a nervous sweat. Backpedaling, Professor Q weakly extends the offer again, stressing that the choice is entirely voluntary. The professor's confidence completely evaporates, his nervous expression revealing his fear of poaching a student from the infamous Professor An. Shutui politely agrees to consider it, leaving the senior wondering why the professor's enthusiasm suddenly vanished. Walking down the hall, Shutui asks the senior if his impressive bean-flicking skill is enough to raise his evaluation level. He cheekily questions whether his projectile ability falls under the extreme or mysterious department's criteria. The senior scoffs at what he perceives as Shutui's humble brag, but confirms any ability can be tested. Eager to boost his score, Shutui excitedly asks to be taken to the testing center immediately. They arrive at a crowded testing facility, and just as they join the long queue, Shutui's name is called. Shutui steps forward onto the testing grid, raising his hand to identify himself. As he waits for his turn, his wrist device suddenly buzzes with an incoming notification. He's surprised by a flood of messages, but decides to ignore them until after his important test. The line is thrown into chaos as a student is violently shoved aside by someone forcing their way through. A muscular student and his entourage barge through the crowd, citing their E-level intermediate privilege to cut the line. Zhu Tui is pushed out of the way, grabbing a railing to keep his balance as he glares at the arrogant newcomer. The other students back away, intimidated by the privileged student's status and grumbling about his connections. The privileged student questions Zhu Tui's muttering, flaunting his E-level intermediate status. He demands the F-class civilians leave, unwilling to tolerate any delay. A text box explains the legal basis of personal privilege in this world. An example of privilege in action: priority access to accommodations and services. Another example: restricted areas based on privilege level. The difficulty of upgrading privilege is highlighted, emphasizing the student's status. The silver-haired student analyzes the situation, assessing the privileged student's power. He observes the privileged student's behavior, disapproving of his arrogance. The privileged student uses his status to demand immediate access, claiming urgency. The silver-haired student calmly intervenes, warning the privileged student about uploaded information. The silver-haired student calmly asks the professor about the wait time, ignoring the bully's presence. Enraged by the perceived slight, the privileged student grabs him by the collar, misinterpreting his calm as excitement. He throws a furious punch, intending to make an example of the silver-haired student. But the silver-haired student effortlessly catches the fist, his cold gaze questioning the bully's judgment. With a simple squeeze, he applies immense pressure, causing a sickening crack in the bully's hand. The muscular student recoils in agony, his arm throbbing from the unexpected counter. He glares up from the floor, cursing his opponent who stands over him completely unfazed. Fueled by pain and humiliation, the bully launches another desperate, wild swing. The silver-haired student's eyes narrow, his focus shifting to a more vulnerable target. He ends the confrontation with a single, well-placed kick, sending the arrogant student flying. The bully's face contorts in agony from the devastatingly precise blow. The onlookers cringe in collective horror at the brutal takedown. His friends stare in disbelief, calling the silver-haired student's move shameless. Fueled by loyalty, the bully's entourage charges forward to avenge their fallen leader. The first attacker's punch is effortlessly intercepted by the calm defender. With blinding speed, the silver-haired student unleashes a series of precise strikes. His counterattack lands perfectly, striking all three assailants at once. In an instant, all four opponents are neutralized, leaving the silver-haired student standing alone. The crowd murmurs in disbelief, unable to comprehend how he defeated three people so quickly. A student mistakenly credits Zhu Tui for the victory, shocked that a supposed newcomer could defeat a top freshman in a 1v4. The silver-haired student offers a condescending rematch to his defeated opponent. He taunts the bully with threats of more precise and painful attacks. Onlookers excitedly discuss the fight, impressed by the silver-haired student's skill. Online comments explode with reactions to the fight, praising the victor. The silver-haired student realizes he accidentally revealed more skill than intended. He angrily demands the onlookers stop recording, threatening future retribution. The defeated bully fumes, vowing revenge for the humiliation. Another student approaches the silver-haired student, concerned about the consequences. The silver-haired student confidently dismisses the concern, ready to face any repercussions. He points to a security camera, asserting his actions were justified self-defense. The senior warns Zhu Tui that even with a good reason, the disciplinary committee might view his actions as excessive. He explains the real danger lies in ignoring the bully's legally protected E-level intermediate privilege. The senior lays out the worst-case scenario: expulsion from the university and crippling medical fines. Completely unfazed, Zhu Tui calmly states that the choice of what happens next is up to them. He then turns his attention to his wrist device, finally checking the flood of messages he'd ignored. A confident smirk spreads across his face as he realizes his long-awaited rewards have finally come through. With a single tap on the holographic screen, he accepts the incoming notifications. His device lights up with a cascade of rewards, including cash bonuses and a massive privilege upgrade to D-level. The senior stares in confusion at Zhu Tui's unsettling grin, worried the threat of expulsion has driven him mad. He quickly changes his tune, rushing to the injured bully and offering to make the whole incident disappear. The bully acknowledges the senior's attempt to de-escalate but demands a proper resolution. The senior offers a solution: a formal apology and a hefty sum for medical expenses. The bully scoffs at the offer, getting in the senior's face and dismissing his influence as worthless. Zhu Tui steps forward, taking control of the situation and thanking the senior for his loyalty. The arrogant student warns Zhu Tui that he's been given a chance to walk away. He leans in, telling Zhu Tui not to regret the path he's chosen. Zhu Tui calmly returns the threat, leaving the senior stunned by his sudden confidence. A disciplinary officer arrives, furious that freshmen are already breaking school regulations. He orders all involved parties to be taken to the disciplinary department for isolation. The officer then commands his team to gather surveillance footage and witness statements for a thorough investigation. The arrogant student flashes his E-level privilege card, confidently spinning his version of the events to the officer. The disciplinary officer acknowledges the bully's status, agreeing he's entitled to preferential treatment and won't be detained. Smirking, the bully taunts his opponent, certain that his own privilege will protect him while the other faces punishment. Xu returns the smirk with a cool, challenging gaze, questioning the bully's overconfidence. He calmly informs the officer that he just remembered his own D-level low privilege, activating his wrist device to prove it. The officer and the bully are left utterly speechless. Xu role. The senior student clarifies the misinformation about Xu. They decide to focus on the evaluation test. Xu receives unexpected attention and care from the examiners. Xu's admission test results are displayed, confirming his C rank. Xu arrives at the bustling freshman registration and payment office. He steps up to counter number 3, while other students gossip in the background. The registrar confirms his details, laying out the steep cost of his tuition and fees. She then reveals his D-level privilege grants him a substantial state subsidy, much to his benefit. Meanwhile, the crowd buzzes with rumors about his recent 1v4 victory and his supposed family background. Xu grits his teeth, annoyed that his achievements are being overshadowed by false assumptions. The students continue to compare him to other top-tier freshmen, debating who is the strongest. After completing the process, the registrar hands him his official admission credentials. Just as he takes the card, his wrist device buzzes with an incoming notification. A holographic message appears, revealing a summons from Professor An to meet her at a research institute. The registrar, seemingly annoyed, plans to thank Professor An for the special admission quota. A close-up reveals the registrar's intense and determined expression. A high-tech control room, filled with screens displaying data streams, suggests clandestine operations. Text on a screen details an observation task assigned to operative number 26, targeting an anomaly. The observation task officially commences, initiating surveillance on the designated target. A futuristic cityscape showcases advanced architecture, with a guard standing before a research institute. A hand interacts with a futuristic interface, likely granting access to a secure area. Professor An explains access protocols to Xu within the futuristic setting. Professor An directs Xu to a specific location within the technologically advanced space. Professor An reveals she has 3 specific matters to discuss: the energy supplement and her personal guidance as perks of the new job. Xu enthusiastically accepts the internship offer. He clarifies his primary interest is in improving his abilities. Professor An shifts the conversation to his learning plan. She explains the importance of mentality for their department. She emphasizes the role of mental power in gene abilities. Xu displays the small steel balls he uses as projectiles. Professor An demonstrates the power of mental manipulation. She explains how mental power can control physical objects. She highlights the potential of strong spiritual power. She introduces the concept of inner vision. The silver-haired student contemplates something on a busy city street. He realizes Professor An likely knew about his hidden ability. He reflects on the difficulty of keeping secrets from Professor An. On a futuristic transport, the concept of inner vision is explained. The benefits of opening specific gene base points are illustrated. The genetic chain for vision and its activation requirements are detailed. The unique cultivation method for X-ray vision is discussed. He reacts with excitement to the potential of his newfound ability. The concept of a lucky break in gene opening is introduced. He inquires about the implications of X-ray vision for his department. Professor An explains the higher success rate of X-ray vision activation in their department. Xu acknowledges the information, seemingly unconcerned. Professor An stresses the importance of activating gene base points strategically. A shirtless figure demonstrates the interconnectedness of gene ability chains. The figure explains the limitations of resources for gene activation. Xu expresses understanding but has another question. Professor An encourages Xu to voice his question. Xu inquires about the practical applications of X-ray vision. Professor An explains the primary function of X-ray vision in their department. Xu reveals his X-ray vision is different, displaying a card. Someone offers a can of soda, encouraging their friend to talk. The friend accepts the drink, about to share some news. He explains a powerful family contacted him through his father. He reveals the family's influence in Kyoto and their request. His friend considers the implications of this request. He asks if his friend has a grudge against the family. The friend denies any ill will, explaining the family's widespread influence. He advises caution, suggesting they avoid provoking the family. He jokes about the consequences of escalating the situation. His friend explains the potential repercussions of such actions. A friend advises against escalating the situation, suggesting strength is the best defense. He reveals a substantial sum of money. a bribe from a powerful family. The silver-haired student is shocked by the amount, questioning the family's motives. The friend downplays the situation, framing it as a simple student dispute. The silver-haired student considers the offer, weighing the money against his principles. The friend departs, leaving the silver-haired student to contemplate his decision. Alone, he fantasizes about the potential of the money for self-improvement. He acknowledges the need for both resources and influence to achieve his goals. He uses his wrist device to access the funds, the transaction completing successfully. He accesses a secured file, recalling the password provided by Professor Ann. He studies the complex cultivation manual, noting the multiple revisions to its gene opening instructions. The document details the explosive growth potential for wisdom students, promising a royal tier of spiritual power. He imagines Professor Ann's incredible power, a form of precision sniping that even allows her to fly. A blissful smile spreads across his face as he daydreams about achieving that same level of freedom and strength. Shaking off the fantasy, he refocuses on the task at hand, preparing to begin his own cultivation. Just as he starts, his wrist device buzzes, glowing with an incoming notification. He's instantly annoyed, wondering who would dare interrupt him at such a crucial moment. The message is from Gong Ling, inviting him to her dorm and teasing him with a mention of her beautiful roommate. His mind immediately conjures an image of the two women, leaving him flustered by the tempting invitation. He forcefully shakes the thought away, reminding himself that improving his strength is the only priority right now. He confirms his understanding and agreement over the phone. He ends the call, seemingly satisfied with the conversation. He relays the information to his companions, seeking their input. He shares the news that disciplinary action will be minimal. His friend questions if this concludes the matter entirely. Another friend analyzes Xu Tui's departmental affiliation. A friend suggests a new plan, sparking intrigue. He initially dismisses the idea, citing family instructions. The friend elaborates on his plan, emphasizing its potential impact. Back on campus, life continues as students navigate the futuristic grounds. The silver-haired student enjoys a morning snack, grateful for a friend's generosity. He checks the news, curious about the latest happenings. He scrolls through social media, finding posts about the freshman incident. He reacts with annoyance to the exaggerated online narratives. He vents his frustration at the misleading titles and rumors. He suspects someone is deliberately stirring up conflict. He resolves to become stronger, regardless of future challenges. He decides to prioritize the opening ceremony. He arrives at the school square, finding a large crowd gathered. From a high vantage point, he observes the assembled students. The silver-haired student observes the opening ceremony from above. Gongling and Chengmo react to the ceremony below. A powerful figure takes the stage, radiating authority. The principal, Wen Xinglin, prepares to address the students. He unleashes a dramatic display of energy, captivating the audience. The energy bolt strikes a distant building, showcasing his power. Students react with awe and excitement to the display. Xu Tui focuses his energy, preparing his own demonstration. He unleashes a concentrated blast of energy skyward. The crowd reacts with shock and confusion to the sudden surge of power. The students debate whether the powerful display came from the mysterious or extreme department. Principal Wen Xinglin calmly informs the students that the real show is just beginning. A student's shout draws everyone's attention back to the sky for another spectacle. A new figure makes a call for their first class. Xu Tui finds a seat among his new classmates, all waiting for the lecture to begin. A cheerful professor named Wen Xiao introduces himself, revealing his dual role in both the mysterious and extreme departments. He points to the horn on his head, using it as a cautionary tale about the dangers of sloppy spiritual cultivation. Despite the warning, he claims not to mind his unique feature, though his expression suggests otherwise. The class erupts in laughter, amused by the professor's lighthearted approach to a serious warning. Xu Tui, however, sees the deeper meaning, connecting the professor's condition to En Xiaoxu's previous lesson on precise gene activation. The silver-haired student is determined not to mess up. Professor Wen Xiao approves of the student's attentiveness. Class begins with the distribution of cultivation materials. The silver-haired student receives his cultivation bottle. Spiritual power is the foundation of the mysterious department. The professor explains the purpose of the vacuum tellurium bottle. Instructions on how to use the bottle are given. The professor emphasizes focus and control during the process. Students listen intently to the professor's guidance. Xu Tui concentrates on the task, following the instructions carefully. Xu Tui's cultivation bottle explodes dramatically, startling the class. The silver-haired student watches the commotion, seemingly unaffected. Professor Wen examines Xu Tui's hand after the bottle incident. The professor checks Xu Tui's information, noticing his department. The professor praises Xu Tui's talent despite the mishap. He offers Shu Tui a larger cultivation bottle and more resources. The professor suggests a transfer to a different department. Shu Tui considers the professor's unexpected offer. He politely explains his commitment to his current mentor. The professor expresses disappointment but understands his choice. Professor An provides Shu Tui with a unique cultivation method. The silver-haired student contemplates the new cultivation technique. Professor Wenshao dismisses the class after a brief discussion. Classmates gossip about Shu Tui and the exploding bottle. Professor Wenshao and Shu Tui return to the classroom. The silver-haired student regrets attracting attention. Professor Wenshao resumes the lesson, shifting to practical applications. The professor calls for a teaching assistant, Mr. Deng. Mr. Deng approaches the front of the class. Mr. Deng introduces himself and his accomplishments. Students marvel at Deng Wei's impressive 3 ability chains. Professor Wenshao poses a question about the extreme department. He explains the rules of a simple battle demonstration. Cheng Mo eagerly anticipates a real fight. The silver-haired student makes a request to Professor Wen. He challenges Shu Tui to a practical exercise. Cheng Mo and Shu Tui react to the unexpected challenge. Che-Jan would be a more valuable lesson for the class. The silver-haired student condescendingly agrees, calling the department's top genius his dessert. With the new matchup set, Professor Wen clicks a device to begin the practical exercise. The 2 students stand ready on a futuristic platform as the class watches. Professor Wenshao reminds them of the potential dangers of the demonstration. The professor signals the start of the exercise with a dramatic gesture. Che-Jan unleashes a fiery projectile, warning his opponent to be careful. The silver-haired student swiftly counters, telling Che-Jan to watch out. Che-Jan is caught off guard by the silver-haired student's speed and agility. The audience reacts with alarm as the fiery projectile heads towards them. Professor Wenshao calmly assures the class that the situation is under control. The professor intercepts the projectile, preventing any harm to the onlookers. The silver-haired student subdues Che-Jan, ending the exercise quickly. The silver-haired student lectures his defeated opponent, who defiantly demands a rematch. He offers Che-Jan the first move, but the proud student angrily refuses the condescending gesture. Learning from his mistake, Che-Jan powers up his fiery fists, determined to use a different strategy this time. As the rematch begins, Che-Jan leaps back to create distance, but his opponent closes the gap in an instant. The silver-haired student lands a powerful blow, mockingly complimenting Che-Jan's improved effort. He swiftly ends the second round with another decisive strike, leaving Che-Jan completely overwhelmed. Professor Wenshao cheerfully concludes the demonstration, thanking the thoroughly defeated Che-Jan for his participation. The professor uses the one-sided fight as a lesson on strategy and overcoming weaknesses for the mysterious department. Just as the professor tries to wrap up the lesson, the silver-haired student interrupts, not yet satisfied. He points directly at Shu Tui, reminding everyone of his original challenge and putting the spotlight back on him. The silver-haired student directly challenges Shu Tui to a fight. He insists on a real battle with Shu Tui. Shu Tui and the silver-haired student approach each other. The silver-haired student wants to make an example of Shu Tui. Cheng Mo gives Shu Tui some tactical advice. The silver-haired student acknowledges the advice. He considers the implications of making too much of a scene. Someone prepares to record the upcoming fight. Another student asks Shu Tui for permission to record. The silver-haired student realizes the value of recording the fight. The silver-haired student shrugs off concerns about being recorded, eager to start the fight. The recording begins, capturing the 2 students facing off in the futuristic classroom. Both students confirm their readiness, the tension in the room thick with anticipation. Professor Wenshao officially starts the exercise, his expression a mix of excitement and apprehension. Shu Tui launches forward with surprising speed, catching the silver-haired student off guard. The silver-haired student reacts quickly, unleashing a burst of energy. He looks surprised, seemingly not expecting Shu Tui's unusual tactic. Shu Tui's attack connects, sending the silver-haired student sprawling. The silver-haired student questions the nature of Shu Tui's attack, recognizing its unique properties. He analyzes the attack, realizing its complexity and potential impact. Professor Wen recognizes the attack as a crude but brilliant use of mental power, confirming Shu Tui's genius. The challenger retaliates with a swift kick, determined to deny Shu Tui another chance to use his trump card. Shu Tui is caught completely off guard by the sudden physical assault. The silver-haired student smirks confidently as his attack closes in on its target. His powerful kick connects squarely with Shu Tui's head in a stunning blow. As the challenger lands, Shu Tui staggers backward, reeling from the impact. Wiping his lip, Shu Tui glares back with fierce determination, refusing to be intimidated. The silver-haired student returns the intense gaze, ready to continue the fight. He unleashes another powerful move, stomping the ground with incredible force. Shockwaves ripple across the platform, racing towards a bracing Shu Tui. Shu Tui realizes his mind can see the attacks, but his body is too slow to keep up. He shifts tactics, relying on his spiritual sense to predict his opponent's every move. A glowing blue pyramid materializes from thin air, a manifestation of his mental power. The silver-haired student scoffs, certain he won't fall for another projectile trick. He moves to swat the seemingly simple attack aside with casual confidence. But the pyramid slams into his face, proving far faster and more unpredictable than he expected. The challenger erupts in pure rage, humiliated by the direct hit. Shu Tui returns a cool, satisfied smirk, having successfully turned the tables. Losing his composure, the silver-haired student abandons strategy and lunges forward in a furious assault. He launches himself into the air, aiming a devastating kick to end the fight decisively. Shu Tui delivers a swift, powerful kick. The silver-haired student blocks the incoming attack. Shu Tui follows up with another forceful kick. The silver-haired student is sent flying across the platform. He lands hard, clearly impacted by the attack. Shu Tui lands gracefully, maintaining his composure. Shu Tui delivers a final decisive blow. The silver-haired student cries out, overwhelmed by the attack. Chaijian intervenes, protesting the intensity of the fight. Chungmo defends Shu Tui, pointing out the challenger's earlier ruthlessness. A blue-haired student explains the difference between exercises and real combat. Professor Wen considers the student's words, a thoughtful expression on his face. The silver-haired student agrees with the blue-haired student's assessment. He challenges the blue-haired student to a real fight, a smirk playing on his lips. The blue-haired student accepts the challenge, radiating confidence. He prepares for the fight, a determined glint in his eyes. The silver-haired student requests permission from Professor Wen to use his full abilities. Professor Wen grants permission, curious to see what will unfold. The blue-haired student asks to borrow a specific, powerful ability. The silver-haired student reacts with surprise and a hint of apprehension. The silver-haired student contemplates his next move, a slight smirk on his face. He asks to borrow some steel beads, having forgotten his own. A student offers him pellet soybeans, causing some amusement. He asks another student, Qing Jing, for 2 pearls. Qing Jing readily agrees to help him out, strategizing for a successful hit. Deng Wei taunts him, confident in his own abilities. Deng Wei charges forward, vowing to unleash his full power and end the fight decisively. He leaps into action, narrowly dodging a familiar blue pyramid projectile. The silver-haired student smirks, shattering the mental construct with a single punch, now wise to the trick. Shu Tui grits his teeth, his initial strategy full kick, aiming to shatter Shu Tui's strategy. Shu Tui observes Deng Wei's movements, anticipating his next move. He questions Deng Wei's aerial capabilities, challenging his mobility. Deng Wei realizes he's been lured into a trap by Shu Tui's projectiles. Deng Wei is shocked by a sudden realization mid-fight. Shu Tui channels energy, preparing a devastating counterattack. He unleashes a barrage of pearl projectiles with incredible force. Deng Wei is propelled backward by the unexpected impact. He crashes to the ground, the attack clearly taking its toll. Deng Wei writhes in pain, the aftermath of the attack evident. The class reacts with stunned silence to the sudden turn of events. Chungmo cheers Shu Tui's victory, celebrating his classmates' unexpected triumph. Professor Wen Xiao rushes to the scene, concerned about Deng Wei's condition. The professor urgently calls for medical assistance, realizing the severity of the situation. Medical personnel rush Deng Wei away on a stretcher. Professor Wen anxiously awaits the medic's diagnosis. The medic explains the extent of Deng Wei's injuries. Another medic questions Professor Wen's sudden seriousness. Professor Wen seems to be contemplating something important. He instructs the medics to prioritize Deng Wei's treatment. The silver-haired student watches as Deng Wei is taken away. Another student approaches, concerned about the consequences. The silver-haired student expresses no regret for his actions. Professor Wen reflects on the day's events. Professor Wen warns the class that their freshman protection only students receive the task on their personal holographic devices, ready to begin their work. Meanwhile, the school's social media explodes with sensationalized posts about the classroom brawl. Back in his room, Shu Tui finally gets a moment to himself after the long day. Bandaged and exhausted, he collapses onto the couch, feeling the strain of the recent events. He mentally recaps the chaotic day, from the online drama to the intense fight. Shu Tui sighs, overwhelmed by how eventful his first day has been. His weary expression shifts to one of confusion as he notices something unexpected. Shu Tui notices a new message on his wrist device. He reads the dorm rules left by his roommate. A girl enters and asks if he's Shu Tui. A stylish senior introduces himself as Luo Morong, Shu Tui's roommate. Shu Tui greets his new roommate respectfully. Shu Tui recognizes Luo Morong as one of the school's popular seniors. Luo Morong asks if Shu Tui has read the dorm rules. Tui nervously agrees to the rules. Luo Murong notices Tui's injuries. Tui explains he got hurt during a class exercise. Luo Murong scoffs, implying Tui's recent actions will have consequences. Tui recalls a similar warning from Professor Wen. Luo Murong tosses Tui some medical supplies. Tui gratefully catches the offered ointment. Tui asks Luo Murong about the 3-month protection period. Luo Murong sighs, realizing Tui's lack of knowledge about school policies. He explains the university encourages competition among students. A flashback shows a student harnessing energy facing another. A holographic display shows rankings and rewards for top students. The display details the varying levels of resource allocation based on rank. Tui is stunned by the value of the D-grade potions, realizing the school's immense investment in its students. Luo Murong explains the 3-month protection period for freshmen ends soon, after which the real competition begins. He then points out that some people, like Tui, have already started bending the rules. The senior warns that the fight for rankings is ruthless, often leading to serious injuries or worse. With a final piece of advice, Luo Murong tells him to train hard if he wants to survive being a target. The door slides shut, leaving Tui to process the grim reality of his situation. Holding the ointment, Tui smirks, realizing his roommate's harsh words hide a softer side. His expression turns serious as he accepts that he has indeed become a marked man. He mentally lists his new rivals, knowing both Yuanshu and Deng Wei are watching his every move. A confident grin returns as he remembers the fight was recorded, giving him all the proof he needs. Tui decides to review the cultivation methods from Professor Wen. He holds a glowing blue card, intrigued by its contents. The futuristic campus bustles with activity as a flying vehicle passes overhead. Refreshed after a shower, Tui feels the positive effects of his cultivation. An incoming call interrupts his post-shower routine. He answers the call on his wrist device. The caller, a blonde student, shares some exciting news. The caller reveals information about a highly ranked student named Rhythm. Tui agrees to check out the information, intrigued. He wonders if someone has placed a bounty on him. The silver-haired student is furious about a deceptively edited video. He decides to take action, initiating a call. He contacts the video's uploader, Lian Jinjiang. Tui confronts Lian about the misleading video. Lian makes a brazen offer to alter the video for a hefty price. Lian laughs, revealing his extortion attempt was a joke. Tui is taken aback by the unexpected turn. Lian doubles down, claiming the video is accurate. Tui questions Lian's motives for spreading misinformation. Lian dismisses Tui and ends the call abruptly. Tui initiates a call, his finger hovering over a holographic interface. Lian Jinjiang leans back in his chair, dismissing teenagers as childish. Yuanshu contemplates Lian's cunning and the flawless video. He considers lodging a formal complaint against Lian. Yuanshu gets dressed, determined to take action. A futuristic skyscraper stands tall against the night sky. A registrar greets Yuanshu, ready to assist him. Yuanshu informs the registrar he wants to file a report. Deputy Director Wang arrives, inquiring about the issue. Yuanshu explains the situation, suspecting Lian of extortion. Deputy Director Wang considers the serious accusation of extortion with a thoughtful frown. Yuanshu confirms the gravity of the situation, promising to file a formal report after his meeting. The deputy director orders Lian's account to be blocked immediately, with further punishment to be decided later. Meanwhile, the university's interim committee gathers in a high-tech conference room to discuss a pressing matter. The principal opens the meeting, focusing the discussion on the recent incident between Tui and Deng Wei. The vice president of the extreme department demands severe punishment for Tui's ruthless actions. The mysteries department's vice president defends Tui, arguing he was provoked and his counterattack was justified. The committee debates the appropriate level of punishment, torn between discipline and fairness. The head of academic affairs places the primary blame on Deng Wei, citing his initial malicious intent. The principal turns to Professor Wen, seeking his perspective on the heated classroom confrontation. Professor Wen Xiao nervously tries to explain his role in the classroom incident. The principal sternly reprimands Professor Wen for his lack of control. Professor Wen sweats profusely under the principal's intense scrutiny. The principal emphasizes the importance of fairness in interdepartmental competitions. The principal seeks Professor Wen's opinion on how to handle the situation. Another committee member suggests Tui should also face consequences. A committee member argues that even justified retaliation needs a measured response. Another member emphasizes the importance of fostering a spirit of resistance in students. The principal questions the future of their school and humanity if students lack the will to fight back. The committee reaches a decision, assigning responsibility to Professor Wen and opting for a less severe approach. Deputy Director Wang presents the principal with the full results of his investigation. The principal grimly reviews the holographic report, his expression hardening with each detail. Other committee members are left in the dark, wondering about the sudden shift in the meeting's focus. The principal projects the evidence, expressing his shock that such a scandal could occur at their university. A committee member reads the damning report, stunned by Lian Jinjiang's brazen extortion scheme. The principal delivers a harsh ultimatum to the head of the publicity department for his failure of oversight. Elsewhere, Lian Jinjiang plots his revenge, unaware that his time is running out. A sudden knock at the door interrupts his scheming, catching him completely by surprise. He opens the door to find a stern-faced agent presenting official identification. The agent, backed by his partner, serves Lian an arrest warrant for large-scale extortion. Lian Jinjiang stares in disbelief, his scheme crumbling before his very eyes. The next day, a cry of despair echoes across the university campus. A student panics, discovering the school has completely shut down video monetization. Another student urges his friends to check the official school announcement for the shocking details. The notice reveals Lian's extortion ring has been busted, and Professor Wen has been demoted for his negligence. Meanwhile, Xu Tui pushes himself to the limit, surrounded by supplements as he focuses on his cultivation. He channels his energy, forcing a breakthrough in his mental training. Exhausted but successful, he finally completes the difficult process. Lying on his bed, he realizes he's unlocked his first gene layer in record time, surpassing even the most talented geniuses. He reflects on his newfound strength, confident he can now stand his ground against powerful opponents like Deng Wei. Lying on his bed, Xu Tui has a sudden brilliant idea. He decides to test the limits of his newly enhanced spiritual sense. His mental perception now extends beyond his room, covering a 6-meter radius. Curious, he pushes his senses further, peering into his roommate's room. He's surprised to find his senior Luo Murong diligently practicing. His focus shifts to the ancient martial arts scrolls his roommate is studying. Suddenly, Luo Murong's sharp gaze indicates he's detected the intrusion. The senior unleashes a furious mental shout, repelling the unwanted observer. Xu Tui is thrown back by the psychic force, completely stunned by the powerful counter. Just then, the door to his room slides open with a decisive whoosh. Xu Tui looks startled, sweat beading on his forehead. Luo Murong, his roommate, appears in the doorway, looking suspicious. Xu Tui raises a hand in greeting, addressing his roommate respectfully. He explains his actions, admitting his curiosity got the better of him. Luo Murong warns him about the dangers of his reckless exploration. Xu Tui thanks him for the advice, promising to be more cautious. He inquires about the nature of Luo Murong's powerful ability. Luo Murong explains it's an ancient martial art technique, not a gene ability. He elaborates on the vast variety of gene abilities available. Xu Tui expresses surprise at the concept of resurrected martial arts. Luo Murong considers the freshman's surprising request with a thoughtful expression. Xu Tui eagerly promises to respect his privacy in exchange for a glimpse into the world of ancient martial arts. Back in his room, he dives into a mountain of books, determined to understand this new path. He studies relentlessly, absorbing every piece of information he can find on traditional cultivation. Even while walking across campus, Xu Tui remains completely engrossed in his research. He arrives for his next class, his mind buzzing with newfound knowledge. The book in his hands reveals a fascinating link between modern gene evolution and ancient theories. He realizes that ancient meditation techniques could be the key to unlocking his potential. A memory surfaces of his father teaching him to meditate, revealing a long-forgotten foundation. Suddenly, a loud noise from the front of the classroom shatters his concentration. Xu Tui recalls his father's meditation lessons. A classmate invites Xu Tui to the cafeteria. Xu Tui playfully acknowledges his large appetite. Other students react to the invitation, surprised and intrigued. Xu Tui agrees to join them for the meal. In the classroom, someone searches for Xu Tui. 3 students from the extreme department stand together, looking serious. Xu Tui identifies himself to the group. Li Jiang introduces himself and his affiliation. Lichon challenges Gyotai to a match. Li Jiang clarifies that he's not looking for trouble, just a simple sparring match. Xu Tui scoffs at their nerve, questioning their complete lack of shame. The challenger quickly distances his group from Deng Wei, insisting they aren't there for revenge. His companions join in, confrontation into a spectacle. After the amusement dies down, Li Jiang clears his throat to regain style. The silver-haired student realizes this is all about gaining an edge in the upcoming competition. Li Jiang formally proposes a refereed match, even offering to pay, but Xu Tui sees through their attempt to get a free training session. With a dismissive sigh, Xu Tui flatly rejects their self-serving proposal. Xu Tui dismisses the extreme department students' offer, annoyed by their proposed training scheme. The students sweeten the deal, offering energy replenishment medicine for Xu Tui's participation. Xu Tui realizes he's being manipulated into giving them free training. The extreme students up the ante, offering more medicine for multiple matches. Xu questions if the offer stands regardless of the outcome. The futuristic campus buildings gleam under a clear sky. Inside a specialized training room, the students prepare for their sparring matches. A teacher reminds them to keep the sparring friendly and avoid serious injuries. The teacher specifically warns Xu, recalling the previous classroom incident. Xu agrees to the terms, and the sparring matches are about to begin. A student with vibrant pink hair confidently declares he'll go first. He instructs the silver-haired student to observe and analyze the upcoming match. The teacher confirms both fighters are ready to begin. Xu advises his opponent not to hold back, a smirk playing on his lips. The pink-haired student launches himself at Xu with a burst of energy. The observing students discuss Xu's typical fighting style and strategize. The pink-haired student rushes Xu while another student yells a warning. Xu traps the pink-haired student, showcasing impressive control. The pink-haired student acknowledges Xu's skill, but dismisses it as a trick. Xu unleashes a powerful unseen force, surprising his opponent. The pink-haired student stomps forward, unleashing a powerful physical attack. He scoffs at Xu's tactics, believing raw power will always triumph over strategy. Another student steps up, throwing a fierce, energy-infused punch directly at Xu. Xu effortlessly blocks the blow with a shimmering blue energy shield, much to the crowd's surprise. He remains completely unfazed, his expression calm and calculating. The attacker is stunned to discover a second hidden layer to the defensive shield. He realizes with dawning horror that he's completely unable to break through the layered defense. The combined force of the shield sends the student flying backward across the training room. His friends are baffled, wondering how Xu could have perfectly overlapped two mental shields. Xu coolly explains his logic, pointing out that no rule forbids using multiple shields to cover one's weaknesses. The student reacts to Xu's surprisingly strong defense. A medic assesses the injured student's condition. The student insists on continuing the match despite his injury. Xu is declared the winner of the match. Xu awaits the next challenger. Another student eagerly volunteers to fight. Xu wins again, demonstrating his prowess. Xu defeats another opponent, leaving the extreme department students shocked. Xu wins yet another match, solidifying his dominance. The extreme department students reflect on their losses and gains. Li Jiang offers Xu payment for the sparring matches. Xu watches the extreme department students leave, impressed by their work ethic. Xu suddenly remembers his neglected chore. Xu rushes off, declining a lunch invitation. Xu completes his lab duties. Xu detects a disturbing scent. He realizes the scent is coming from the lab. Xu rushes towards the lab, fearing the worst. An empty bowl suggests someone has already eaten. A bandaged girl enjoys her meal, complimenting someone on their work. And Xiaoxu questions Xu about his recent activities and injuries. Xu looks surprised by her concern and directness. And Xiaoxu reveals her deeper interest in his rapid healing. She suggests they begin an experiment related to his recovery. They arrive at a high-tech laboratory. And Xiaoxu comments on Xu's familiarity with the lab. She presses him for details about his injury. Xu sweats nervously under her intense gaze. He realizes the source of the unusual scent he detected earlier. Xu observes in Xiaoxu in a futuristic chamber, seemingly unharmed. Xu questions Professor An about the incubators and their contents. Professor An reveals the incubators contain clones of herself and Xu. Xu is shocked to learn his clone was created upon his school entry. Professor An directs Xu to prepare for the experiment. Xu inquires about Professor An's injuries. Professor An hints at a close relationship with her teacher. Xu finds the situation unsettling. Professor An explains the biocode entry process. Rows of incubators containing clones are revealed. Professor An discusses the rarity of medical cloning technology. Xu marvels at Institute 14's access to rare resources. He wonders about the cost of using such valuable resources. Professor An introduces the school of genre metahumans. Professor An offers Xu a choice to join their school. Xu decides to join, intrigued by the potential benefits. Professor An promises a special reward for his decision. A rare evolved black crown queen bee is revealed. The professor explains the bee's spiritual gene enhancement properties. The queen bee's spiritual swarm control ability is detailed. Another ability, spiritual whip, is described, highlighting its potential for control and punishment. Professor An explains the high failure rate of the procedure. Xu contemplates the necessity of a clone for the experiment. Professor An reassures Xu about the reduced mental strain with a clone. Professor An encourages Xu and directs him to the equipment. Xu sits and receives instructions for the experiment. Professor An checks Xu's readiness, the experiment about to begin. The experiment starts, initiated by Professor An. A surge of energy flows, indicating the experiment's progress. Xu's clone emerges from the incubator. Professor An inquires about Shu Tui's experience during the procedure. Shu Tui reports feeling no discomfort and full control of his body. Professor An explains the next step. Shu Tui steps out of the chamber, seemingly unaffected. Multiple Shu Tui clones lie unconscious on the lab floor. Professor An surveys the scene, a room full of failed Shu Tui clones. A nervous lab assistant questions whether they should continue the experiment. Professor An insists on one final attempt, determined to succeed. The command is given to open the incubator and begin the injection process. Professor An monitors the equipment, searching for any anomalies. A look of triumph crosses her face as she declares success. Shu Tui sits in a futuristic chair, seemingly unharmed. Professor An asks Shu Tui how he feels after the procedure. Shu Tui confirms his success, reporting a positive outcome. Shu Tui reports a significant increase in spiritual power. Professor An inquires about the acquired abilities from the bee. Shu Tui reveals he gained 2 new abilities. Professor An is surprised by the 2 acquired abilities. Shu Tui confirms the abilities, spiritual chain and another. Professor An reacts with shock to the mention of spiritual whip. Professor An confirms Shu Tui gained spiritual whip. Professor An urges Shu Tui to test the new ability. Professor An expresses relief and acknowledges the experiment's intensity. Professor An praises Shu Tui's efficiency and success. Shu Tui is introduced to Ah Huang, the Institute's exclusive supercomputer that just recorded his entire procedure. Professor An reveals the robot is just a vessel for the AI, whose true core is located off-world. Realizing the incredible resources at his disposal, Shu Tui feels confident he made the right decision joining the Institute. The AI, Ah Huang, immediately snitches on Shu Tui, analyzing his vitals and asking the professor to discipline him for his thoughts. Professor An, looking weary but resolute, decides his recovery is complete if he has the energy to bicker with an AI. She volunteers as his training partner, eager to test the combat effectiveness of the newly acquired spiritual whip. Shu Tui accepts the challenge, materializing the glowing blue whip to begin their sparring session. The scene shifts to a quiet table with a teapot and cups, hinting at a brief respite after the intense training. His attack proves ineffective as Professor An explains her overwhelming mental power negates any non-critical strikes. She critiques his inefficient use of energy, advising him to condense more power to make the whip truly devastating. Professor An calls a halt to the sparring session. She acknowledges Shu Tui's improved performance, exceeding her expectations. She reveals he's the first to acquire 2 abilities at once, even surpassing the founder. She assigns him a report, eager to analyze his unique genetic miracle. She explains the potential for growth within their lineage based on his results. She emphasizes the difficulty of their entry screening and the rarity of the black crown queen bee. She playfully chides Ah Huang for forgetting to include her at about 100 meters for him. She confirms his current training weight is sufficient to control the new weapon. The professor challenges him to combine his new spiritual chain ability with the sword. Fired up by the challenge, Shu Tui eagerly accepts the chance to test his new power. The sleek, high-tech blade rests in its case, a symbol of his growing strength. He struggles at first to lift the sword with his mind, but Professor An encourages him to keep practicing. She sets his first goal, to control the sword over a distance of 100 meters. With a surge of concentration, he sends the glowing blade flying down a long corridor. Just as the sword returns, Professor An interrupts, instructing him to greet a visitor at the door. With his new sword orbiting him, Shu Tui heads to the door, curious about the professor's serious visitor. He's greeted by a panicked student holding a dazed and drooling girl. Shu Tui realizes his spiritual whip is to blame and defensively denies any strange intentions. The scene reveals the trio in a vast training room, the floor cracked from the girl's fall. He tries to explain his inexperience with the new skill, but the student quickly silences him. The visitor smirks, claiming that extreme department students embrace injury as part of their growth. Shu Tui volunteers to go first, leaving the student to look after his incapacitated companion. He watches in stunned silence as the student tends to the still unresponsive girl. The visitor seems to be trying to reason with the girl, who glares back with intense annoyance. A horrifying realization dawns on Shu Tui as he figures out the student's manipulative plan. The silver-haired student walks away, seemingly leaving the training area. The blue-haired girl appears disoriented and calls out. A concerned student checks on the blue-haired girl. The silver-haired student pauses, turning back towards the others. He looks surprised, noticing the commotion he caused. The concerned student offers the girl water. The silver-haired student approaches the pair, inquiring about the situation. The girl and the other student share a knowing look. They show the silver-haired student a holographic display. The display reveals a video of a fight. Shu Tui prepares for another sparring match, energy crackling around him. A challenger leaps towards him, ready to strike. A confident observer watches the unfolding action. Xu Tui reacts with surprise to an unexpected move. The challenger presses the attack, wielding a blade. Xu Tui is caught off guard, the attack connecting. He reels from the impact, clearly affected. Medics rush to the scene, prepared for the worst. The victor basks in the cheers of the crowd. The silver-haired student reviews a recording of the fight with others. A student questions the brutality of a recent school battle. Another student explains the dangers of the school's ranking competition. The students discuss a talented exchange student named Azari. Azari's impressive combat record is revealed. The students learn Azari's next exchange stop is their university. A freshman student expresses concern about facing Azari. The students compare Azari's fighting style to a recent incident. The students suspect Azari possesses a rare mental attack ability. They discuss ways to counter a mental attack. A rather unconventional method of defense is suggested. He proposes borrowing someone's ability to improve his mental defenses. He finds this training method challenging. He realizes he needs real combat experience. He agrees to a training proposal. He's asked to use his new ability on the other students. One of the students suggests they continue the training later. He offers assistance to a struggling student. He reflects on the effectiveness of the training. The scene shifts to a view of campus buildings. He walks across the campus grounds. Luo Murong's presence causes a stir among admirers on campus. Someone calls out to Luo Murong, catching his attention. Xu Tui approaches Luo Murong, eager to speak with him. Xu Tui bombards Luo Murong with questions about the books he lent him. Luo Murong interrupts Xu Tui's barrage of questions. Luo Murong explains he's in a hurry. Luo Murong reveals he's attending an ancient martial arts exchange conference. Xu Tui asks to accompany Luo Murong to the conference. Xu Tui learns the conference requires a referral for entry. Xu Tui offers to do chores in exchange for a favor. Luo Murong agrees to Xu Tui's request and leads the way. Xu Tui realizes the ancient martial arts exchange conference is a formal event. Xu Tui offers to clean the dorm for 2 weeks as a favor. Luo Murong considers Xu Tui's offer, seemingly surprised. Luo Murong accepts the deal and tells Xu Tui to follow him. They travel through the futuristic city in a flying car. They arrive at the impressive building hosting the conference. Xu Tui comments on the cost of the flying car, impressed by Luo Murong's wealth. Luo Murong clarifies that his wealth is self-earned, not inherited. Someone commands them to stop, halting their progress. Luo Murong explains the high stakes of their world's evolutionary path. He reveals the lucrative yet dangerous nature of clearing missions. Luo Murong and Xu Tui enter a crowded auditorium. They attend a public class led by a powerful figure in the Jin Ancient Martial Arts Association. A girl notices their arrival, her expression a mix of surprise and admiration. She enthusiastically offers them reserved seats. She explains her efforts to secure the best spots, highlighting her dedication. Luo Murong politely declines the offered seat, creating an awkward moment. He suggests an alternative seating arrangement, sensing the girl's discomfort. Another attendee offers her original seat back, resolving the seating dilemma. Xu Tui is startled by the sudden appearance of a girl. The girl offers Xu Tui a choice of 2 seats. She explains her reasoning for the seating arrangement. She offers her seat to Luo Murong, creating a slightly awkward situation. Xu Tui senses the girl's aggressive intent. Luo Murong questions Xu Tui's refusal of the offered seat. An older gentleman prepares to address the audience. He begins his lecture on genetic ancient martial arts. He presents a book to the audience. Xu Tui surprises Luo Murong with a book of his own. The lecturer discusses energy fields and genetic ancient martial arts. Luo Murong and Xu Tui listen attentively, taking notes. The lecturer explains the concept of qi and its relation to energy fields. The lecturer invites students to try sensing qi. The lecturer explains the importance of individual aptitude for this technique. Xu Tui asks Luo Murong about his training methods. Luo Murong reveals his rapid mastery of qi sensing. Xu Tui is impressed by Luo Murong's natural talent. Luo Murong demonstrates how to activate the qi sensing device. Luo Murong is surprised by Xu Tui's immediate success in sensing qi. The audience observes the demonstration, intrigued by Xu Tui's rapid progress. A student questions Xu Tui's seemingly instant grasp of qi sensing. Another student alerts Luo Murong to the unexpected development. Luo Murong decides to address the situation, stepping away briefly. Luo Murong expresses disbelief at Xu Tui's quick mastery of the technique. They decide to seek verification from a higher authority, Mr. Shen. Mr. Shen, a venerable figure, awaits their arrival. Luo Murong introduces Xu Tui to Mr. Shen, explaining the situation. Mr. Shen requests Xu Tui to demonstrate his qi sensing ability. Outside, Luo Murong and the others offer. The Grand Hall of the Genetic Ancient Martial Arts Association is shown. Luo Murong congratulates Xu Tui on his unexpected opportunity. Xu Tui's wrist device vibrates with an incoming communication. A student contacts Xu Tui with urgent news about a challenge. Xu Tui receives a message, a serious look on his face. The message reveals trending topics, and something's caught his eye. Meanwhile, Professor Anne is in her lab, calmly working at her console, seemingly unaware of the online storm. Shu Tui bursts into the lab, his urgent arrival catching her attention. She turns to him with a cool expression, asking what brings him there in such a hurry. He frantically explains the social media frenzy, but she calmly identifies the challenger by name. Shu Tui presses her to respond to the public provocation, pointing out the growing anxiety among the students. He suggests she could use her recent injuries as a reason to decline, but she simply walks away. She takes a seat, her posture conveying a sense of defiance rather than retreat. With a steely gaze, she questions if he truly expects her to admit defeat and back down from a fight. Shu Tui frantically tries to clarify his intentions, but she cuts him off, acknowledging his worry. She turns the tables, showing her injured hand and asking if he knows the real reason she was hurt. A look of dawning fury crosses his face as he correctly guesses the challenger, Haraj, was responsible. He explodes with rage, revealing Haraj shamelessly challenged her right after she exhausted herself fighting the black-crowned bees. Her expression turns icy, admitting his outburst has reminded her that some people need to be taught a lesson. Shu Tui sweats, realizing he's just unleashed the professor's full wrath. He boldly declares he'll get on the ranking list and personally defeat Haraj's disciple to avenge her. Professor An gives him a cold, piercing stare, silently judging his bold promise. He meets her gaze with unwavering determination, his eyes burning with resolve. Unimpressed by his words alone, she simply tells him she'll be waiting to see if he can deliver. Professor An offers Shu Tui one final, crucial piece of advice before he leaves. She warns him that showing the pink-haired student, Zhuang Ziqiang, introduces himself as a campus supplier and information broker. He shakes Shu Tui's hand, praising his reputation as the top genius of the wisdom department. Zhuang Ziqiang allowing him to claim his opponent's higher rank. A massive screen displays the top two fighters in the nation, known as China's Dragon and Tiger. Shu Tui is completely blown away by the sheer arrogance and prestige of the top-ranked titles. Zhuang Ziqiang correctly guesses this and spot the familiar boss Zhuang and head over, curious about the unexpected event. The sign reveals an audacious challenge from Shu Tui, offering a huge reward to any top 100 sophomore who can defeat him. To prove the challenge is real, Zhuang Ziqiang stands beside a glass case overflowing with the promised energy medicine. The sophomores in the crowd erupt in anger, seeing the freshman's challenge as a massive sign of disrespect. Shu Tui watches the chaos unfold, impressed by the broker's sneaky but effective marketing tactics. He tells Chai Xiao he's ready to face the challengers, receiving a supportive nod from his friend. With a determined stride, Shu Tui walks out onto the arena floor to face the storm his friend has created. Shu Tui calmly introduces himself, formally accepting any and all challengers from the senior class. The first opponent wastes no time, charging across the arena with a bat, ready to make a statement. He confidently pays the registration fee, a single energy pill, certain he's about to win big. His friends in the crowd cheer him on, already planning the victory celebration he'll be paying for. The challenger, ranked 94th, formally asks to begin the match, and Shu Tui gives a simple nod of approval. With both fighters ready, the referee officially signals the start of the highly anticipated battle. As his opponent swings, Shu Tui's eyes narrow, and he unleashes a volley of small metal spheres with his mind. The challenger is thrown off his feet, completely overwhelmed by the unexpected barrage of projectiles. The onlooking sophomores are left speechless, their confident expressions replaced with pure shock. Looking down at his defeated opponent, Shu Tui coldly questions if this is the true level of the sophomore ranking list. His taunt echoes through the arena, broadcast on every screen for the stunned crowd to see. A group of upperclassmen watch with detached amusement, noting the freshman's bold confidence. The crowd murmurs, shocked that a newcomer would so openly challenge the entire sophomore year. Speculation begins to spread about how the top-ranked sophomore, Kuishi, will respond to the provocation. The defeated challenger's friends rush to his side, questioning how he could lose so decisively in a single move. He admits his own carelessness, but quickly warns them not to underestimate the freshman's abilities. The fighter describes Shu Tui's projectiles as faster than bullets, with an unpredictable and devastating attack pattern. He confesses that even with a second chance, he's not sure he could win, urging his friends to be cautious. The remaining sophomores gather, their initial arrogance replaced with a tense uncertainty. They decide they have to keep fighting to uphold their reputation, believing a higher-ranked student can surely win. Zhuang Ziqiang smirks, realizing the sophomores are too intimidated to fight after that last display. He grabs a megaphone and taunts the crowd, questioning their courage and offering to raise the reward. His provocation works, as a much more formidable challenger stomps onto the arena floor. The newcomer is Wang Qiu, ranked 29th, a massive leap in skill from the last opponent. Wang Qiu gives Shu Tui a nod of respect, admitting the freshman is qualified to face him. Wielding two blades, he offers Xu Tui a chance to rest before their match begins. Xu Tui just grins, confidently stating he's ready to go, barely having broken a sweat. The challenger realizes Xu Tui is a serious threat and signals for the fight to start. Xu Tui immediately launches a single metal sphere, a streak of blue energy aimed at his opponent. But Wang Qiu effortlessly parries the attack, noting that such a precise technique is also easy to predict. Wang Qiu moves like a blur, expertly deflecting the projectiles with his blades. He reveals his strategy is to close the distance, limiting Xu Tui's control and creating an opening. A confident grin spreads across his face, certain he has another trick up his sleeve. He lunges forward, channeling energy into his blade for a decisive strike. Xu Tui suddenly clutches his head, as the challenger correctly deduces a mental link exists between him and his projectiles. Wang Qiu successfully bats away the metal spheres, severing their connection to Xu Tui. He charges in, knowing the mental backlash from the destroyed spheres is the perfect moment to win. From the stands, his friends watch in alarm as the sophomore closes in for the final blow. But just as his fist is about to land, Xu Tui effortlessly catches the attack. The challenger stares in disbelief as Xu Tui smirks, revealing the feigned weakness was all part of the plan. The crowd murmurs in confusion, wondering why the challenger suddenly froze mid-attack. A crackling blue whip of energy appears, revealing Xu Tui had already ensnared his opponent in a mental trap. Wang Qiu collapses to the ground, his daggers falling from his grasp as the match comes to an abrupt end. The audience gasps in unison as the screens replay the shocking, unseen attack that decided the fight. A group of top-ranked sophomores instantly recognize the technique as a powerful mental assault. Their leader, Kui Xi, laments the missed opportunity to use Xu Tui's attacks to train his own mental resistance. His companion warns that if they don't intervene, the freshman will sweep their entire year and volunteers to step in. Kui Xi gives the order, telling his subordinate to put the freshman in his place and defend their honor. The masked fighter, Tao Guan, leaps from the stands, vaulting into the arena to answer the call. From the sidelines, Qi Hongying observes that Xu Tui's bold challenge has successfully rattled the top sophomore. Xu Tui looks at his empty hands, mentally calculating the cost of the projectiles he just used in the fight. An energy pill, the entry fee for the next match, is tossed through the air toward him. He snatches the pill out of the air, his expression hardening as he accepts the next challenge. The valuable energy pill rests in his palm, a small token representing the high stakes of the tournament. The masked fighter introduces himself as Tao Guan, the 7th-ranked sophomore from the Extreme Department. A close-up reveals his quiver is packed with sleek, high-tech arrows, signaling his specialty. His hand tightens around a powerful compound bow, ready for a long-range assault. Tao Guan draws an arrow, formally requesting the start of their duel with a respectful gesture. Xu Tui analyzes the new threat, recognizing an archer as a natural counter, but noting the small arena limits his opponent's range. A confident smirk appears on his face as he sizes up the 7th-ranked sophomore, ready for a real challenge. The archer requests a larger arena to use his full range, and Xu Tui casually agrees to the change of venue. Elsewhere, a student prepares to live-stream the fight, responding to her friend's question about the broadcast. Her friend announces the sensational title for the stream, hyping up the freshman's challenge against the 7th-ranked sophomore. The livestream chat explodes with comments as students realize Xu Tui is already taking on a top-tier opponent. Online viewers discuss the rarity of an archer in the Extreme Department, speculating on his true power level. The arena stands quickly fill up as a massive crowd gathers to witness the highly anticipated showdown. Without wasting a moment, the archer pushes off, ripples of energy marking his explosive start. Tao Guan gracefully leaps across the arena, demonstrating incredible speed and agility. Xu Tui observes the unique movement skill, recognizing this opponent's technique is something to be taken seriously. From a private room, two influential figures watch the broadcast, one of them intrigued by the freshman's performance. The man with glasses identifies the freshman on screen as Xu Tui, a special recruit from the mysterious department. His white-haired companion wonders if Xu Tui is qualified for their institute, but the other confirms it, pointing to his rapid power growth. The university president muses that the kid's spiritual power is impressive, though he's likely holding back, just as they all did in their youth. He expresses uncertainty about the upcoming match, noting that an archer is a natural counter to the mysterious department's style. Deciding to wait and see, the president settles in to watch the fight unfold, without making any hasty judgments. Meanwhile, in Research Institute 14, a silver-haired woman named Xiao Xue works diligently at a holographic console. A small robot assistant rolls up, offering her a tray of coffee and cookies and encouraging her to rest. The robot then projects a light. She then warns Xu Tui that while the fight must continue, Tao Guan cannot be injured due to an important upcoming match. The archer confidently assures his leader that he won't lose, ready to take on the challenge. Xu Tui feels the pressure mount, realizing he's expected to fight seriously but also hold back. Kuisi's intense glare reinforces the ultimatum, leaving no room for negotiation. Facing the imposing sophomore leader, Xu Tui quietly agrees to the difficult terms of the duel. From the sidelines, Kuisi explains that archers are a natural counter to Xu Tui's department, suggesting he should just forfeit. He walks away, adding that he's already switched the archer's arrows to non-lethal blunt ones as a precaution. Chai Xiao fumes at the unfairness, pointing out that one fighter lock eyes and confirm they are ready to begin the match. As the fight starts, the archer immediately leaps backward, creating distance to gain a tactical advantage. Mid-air, Tao Guan draws his bow, charging an arrow with crackling red energy for a powerful opening shot. He unleashes the arrow, sending a blazing red projectile hurtling toward Xu Tui with blinding speed. Xu Tui instantly summons a layered energy shield, bracing for the incoming attack. The energy-charged arrow slams into the barrier, shattering the first layer with explosive force. He grits his teeth, realizing the sheer power behind the non-lethal arrow is far greater than he anticipated. The projectile punches through his defense, forcing him to dodge as it craters the ground beside him. From the stands, his friends realize this isn't a simple fight, but a high-level probe of each other's abilities. The archer is testing Xu Tui's reaction time to find his optimal range, while Xu Tui gauges his opponent's speed and power. Xu Tui narrowly evades another shot, constantly moving to close the distance and pressure the archer. Recognizing his opponent's skill, he prepares a counterattack, summoning a silver projectile to his hand. Tao Guan expertly parries the sphere with his bow, surprised the freshman can maintain control from 20 meters out. Realizing his current distance isn't enough, the archer leaps back to create an even larger gap for his next assault. Xu Tui goes on the offensive, launching a volley of spheres to close the gap. He dodges unseen attacks while his own projectiles streak across the arena. The archer nimbly evades the spheres, firing back with his own arrows in a fluid motion. Tao Guan takes to the air, using energy platforms to gain a superior vantage point. He warns Xu Tui from above that he's not so easily cornered. The archer reveals aerial combat is a required skill as he knocks 3 energy-charged arrows. Xu Tui sweats, realizing his opponent's ability to fight from the sky presents a serious problem. Tao Guan unleashes a rapid-fire volley of arrows, raining down destruction from above. In response, Xu Tui directs his own projectiles upward to form a defensive screen. The 2 barrages meet mid-air in a spectacular clash of energy and metal. The archer smirks with confidence as Xu Tui's expression shifts to one of pure shock. An energy arrow suddenly intercepts one of his silver spheres, and he wonders how he lost control. With no time to dodge, Xu Tui braces for impact, throwing up a last-ditch energy shield. The arrow shatters his defense, sending him flying backward from the sheer force of the blow. From the stands, Chai Xiao watches in stunned silence, unable to believe what he just saw. Even the experienced Qi Hongying is shocked by the sudden and decisive turn of events. Watching the broadcast, Xiao Xui calmly analyzes the fight, seemingly understanding the archer's hidden technique. Xu Tui lies defeated on the arena floor as the online chat explodes with questions about the final attack. The live streamer asks a senior for an explanation, only to be called an idiot for missing the obvious. The senior berates her for not noticing the key detail, leaving the live streamer flustered but strangely intrigued. The senior explains Xu Tui's defeat was due to inexperience, as even a small impact can disrupt precise mental control. He reveals the archer's brilliant tactic, using 2 arrows to disrupt Xu Tui's projectile, creating an opening for the third. The live streamer finally gets it, realizing Xu Tui's failure to learn from past fights led to this loss. Just as the match seems over, Xu Tui calls out from the floor, refusing to concede. He staggers to his feet, clutching his side and shocking the crowd with his resilience. Despite the pain and sweat, his eyes burn with a fierce determination to continue the fight. The live streamer points out a strange detail. The arrow aimed for his chest, but he's holding his ribs. The senior reveals Xu Tui cleverly changed his usual flat energy shield into a circular one. This strategic change in his defense redirected the blow, saving him from a direct hit to the chest. Xu Tui admits his own carelessness, realizing he underestimated his opponent's complex strategy. Xu Tui analyzes his airborne opponent, suspecting that maintaining flight must be a significant drain on his energy. The archer acknowledges Xu Tui's toughness, but dismisses his tactics as mere tricks that won't last. It was all just a warm-up. The senior analyst declares that with the initial testing phase over, the true battle is only now beginning. The university president watches intently, admitting he can't predict what hidden moves either fighter has. Xiaoxu observes the fight, noting that holding back now would be a foolish move for both of them. The analyst predicts that if the stalemate continues, the archer will inevitably lose due to his finite supply of arrows. Xu Tui deflects another powerful shot, the clash of energy illuminating the arena floor. The archer's expression hardens, internally acknowledging that his freshman opponent is a true monster. Their projectiles collide in a brilliant flash, a testament to their evenly matched power. Tao Guan weighs his options, torn between using a trump card and conserving energy for the next day's match. Suddenly, one of Xu Tui's spheres strikes his bow, catching him completely off guard. He's stunned as another projectile zips past his head, realizing Xu Tui's attack range is far greater than he imagined. Looking down at the distant freshman, the archer questions the impossible reach of his opponent's mental put to try and catch his falling opponent. But before he can reach him, a figure leaps from the stands in a blur of motion. Kuishi lands gracefully, catching his subordinate just before he hits the ground. Kuishi glares down at his defeated subordinate, who clutches his injured hand in pain. The sophomore leader angrily reminds Xu Tui of his explicit warning not to harm the archer. Chai Xiao rushes to his friend's defense, arguing that in a real fight, bad luck is just part of the game. Ignoring the protest, Kuishi checks on his teammate while another sophomore threatens Chai Xiao for his outburst. The online audience struggles to understand the fight's conclusion, but one analyst notes the injury was an unavoidable accident. A teammate's report confirms the archer's hand is broken, causing Kuishi's expression to harden with fury. Another top sophomore, Zhang Changtai, steps forward to accuse Xu Tui of sabotaging their school's honor before a major international match. Chai Xiao counters, pointing out that Xu Tui was already holding back by not using his more lethal attacks. The defeated archer admits his own failure, confessing he was completely blindsided by Xu Tui's backup plan. A female student scolds Zhang Changtai for his accusations, but he stubbornly insists that the outcome is all that matters. Chai Xiao glares, clearly furious at the accusations being thrown around. Zhang Changtai dismisses Chai Xiao's anger and points at Xu Tui, who remains completely unfazed. With a condescending smirk, Zhang Changtai mocks the freshman's disrespectful attitude. His taunt is cut short as a glowing blue blade suddenly appears at his neck, shocking him into silence. Xu Tui calmly challenges the sophomore to continue his rant, his expression deadly serious. Zhang Changtai breaks into a cold sweat, completely intimidated by the freshman's unexpected threat. Xu Tui holds his ground, his hand poised, making it clear he's not bluffing. Kuishi finally intervenes, stepping forward to de-escalate the tense standoff. At his leader's command, Xu Tui recalls his flying sword, though the tension remains thick. Kuishi orders Zhang Changtai to take the injured archer for immediate medical treatment, ending the confrontation. Kuishi calmly asks about Xu Tui's condition, who confirms it's just a minor fractured rib. The sophomore leader dismisses the tension, stating that in an official match, injuries are just part of the game. He admits Xu Tui is stronger than he anticipated and postpones their inevitable duel for another day. Xu Tui confidently accepts, promising to seek him out once his freshman protection period is over. The sophomore leader is visibly taken aback by the freshman's unwavering audacity. Recovering with a laugh, Kuishi formally challenges Xu Tui to meet him on the official ranking list. His mood darkens as he realizes the archer's severe injury means he's out of the important exchange game tomorrow. In a bold move, Kuishi points at Xu Tui and challenges him to take the injured archer's spot on the team. As the team captain, he offers to handle the details, putting the freshman on the spot in front of everyone. Unfazed by the pressure, Xu Tui simply smirks, ready to accept the unexpected challenge. Kuishi warns him that tomorrow's match is real combat, where death is a very real possibility. Unfazed, Xu Tui reveals his entire reason for challenging the sophomores was to qualify for that very match. He proudly announces he'll be fighting as the student of his teacher, and Xiaoxuo. The sophomore leader is stunned, realizing Xu Tui is the student of the same Professor An who's been dodging Herod's public challenges. Xu Tui explains his professor is injured, so he's stepping up to fight in her place, finally clearing up the mystery for Kuishi. With a newfound respect, the sophomore leader agrees to the arrangement, a confident grin on his face. He promises to handle the official paperwork and leaves, telling Xu Tui to use his connections to get more info. As his friends regroup, Xu Tui complains about Kuishi's self-righteous attitude, while Qi Hongying demands he use his flying sword in their next spar. The mention of his weapon triggers a sudden, panicked realization for the freshman. He rushes over to Zhuang Ziqiang, holding out a dented metal sphere and anxiously asking if it can be repaired. Zhuang Ziqiang explains the damaged sphere can't be fixed, but its valuable alloy can be recycled for a decent price. The broker calculates the value, and Xu Tui's eyes practically turn into dollar signs at the surprisingly high payout. Changing the subject, Zhuang Ziqiang holds up his data device, asking if Xu Tui has seen the latest campus news. Xu Tui takes the device, his expression souring as he reads the screen. He's horrified to discover the student body has already given him the ridiculous nickname Brother Silversword. His friends immediately jump on the bandwagon, teasingly offering him discounts and special treatment. Xu Tui erupts in frustration, vehemently correcting them that it's a flying sword, not just some generic silver one. His friends just laugh it off, pointing out that a flying sword is, in fact, still a silver sword. Elsewhere, the university president and his colleague decide to let Shutui participate, but only as a substitute. The president agrees, but adds that they'll need to give the freshman a stern reminder about the stakes. The president's colleague looks confused, asking for clarification on his decision. The president explains Shutui's hesitation cost him, warning that such indecisiveness will be a fatal flaw in a real battle. His colleague nods in understanding, agreeing to pass on the stern warning to the freshman. The president emphasizes the need for rapid growth and transformation, stating it's the only way for the new generation to survive. The scene shifts to the university's hotel, where the international teams are staying, setting the stage for the coming conflict. Inside, the Indo-Federation delegation holds a pre-match briefing, preparing for the exchange. Their leader announces a last-minute change to the opposing team's roster, revealing 2 new fighters have been added. He activates a device, pulling up the intel on their new opponents. The first new challenger is identified as Chi Hongying, a sophomore who recently shot up to the 18th rank. He details her profile, noting her expertise in surprise melee attacks and her experience against mysterious department fighters. The leader dismisses her as a minor factor, revealing the biggest wildcard is a guy named Shu Tui. A holographic profile appears, identifying Shu Tui as a freshman from the mysterious department. One of their fighters scoffs, wondering if their opponents are desperate or just trying to humiliate them with a rookie. The leader slams his hand on the table, instantly silencing the arrogant student. He scolds the student for his ignorance, ordering him to watch Shu Tui's battle footage before making assumptions. The screen displays questioning if she truly expected him to use lethal force against a fellow student. Professor An glares at him, seeing he still doesn't grasp the severity of the situation. To prove her point, she pulls up the fight footage on a holographic screen for a detailed review. She questions why the archer never surrendered, even after Shu Tui landed 2 non-critical hits on his bow. She scoffs at the idea that a top-ranked sophomore would be more naive in combat than a freshman. She reveals the archer's brutal track record, making it clear he's a seasoned and ruthless fighter. The harsh truth sinks in for Shu Tui. His mercy was seen as a weakness, an opening for a lethal counterattack. He thanks her for the brutal but necessary lesson, vowing to adopt a more ruthless mindset for real combat. As he leaves to process the new reality, she watches him go with a contemplative expression. Alone in the lab, she turns back to her console, the weight of her mentorship settling in. She lets out a heavy sigh, exhausted by the difficult conversation and worried about the path he's now on. Her robot assistant notes Shu Tui's many mistakes, suggesting his training might be too intense. Xiaoxu dismisses the topic, instead focusing on a mysterious Plan Number 37 and her dwindling supply of clones. The scene shifts to the next day, the city buzzing with anticipation for the international exchange match. Shu Tui and Chai Xiao arrive at the grand venue, ready for the high-stakes event. Meanwhile, 2 familiar female students make their way through the bustling crowd. They discuss Shu Tui's condition, confident that modern medicine has already healed his injuries from the previous day. One of the women excitedly spots Shu Tui across the hall, immediately grabbing her friend's attention. She points him out in the crowd, standing with his distinctive tricolor-haired friend. A colleague steps forward, immediately dampening the mood with an announcement of bad news. He reveals the Indo-Federation team just reported a last-minute roster change, claiming 2 fighters fell ill. The colleague adds that the 2 replacements are complete unknowns, leaving their team with no intel to prepare. As the students begin to murmur with unease, a sharp command for silence cuts through the crowd. Quishi's expression darkens, realizing this unexpected change throws their entire strategy into disarray. The president challenges the students' sudden insecurity, questioning if their confidence is so easily shaken. Quaishi steps up, raising his hand and confidently declaring on behalf of the team that they are not afraid. Inspired by their captain, the entire student body erupts in a unified roar, their fighting spirit reignited. The president offers one final, crucial piece of advice for the upcoming battle. His expression turns deadly serious as he gives them a chilling 2-word command: survive and eliminate. His colleague questions the severe order, worried about the diplomatic fallout of such an extreme approach. The president scoffs at the idea of consequences, explaining that true respect is earned through fear and power. He tells the students that their primary goal is survival, but they must also achieve victory at all costs. His words ignite the crowd, and the students roar in unison, their fighting spirit reaching a fever pitch. With the team's morale at its peak, the president leads them toward the main arena. The scene shifts to a massive, high-tech stadium, the stage set for the international showdown. In the VIP section, the Indo-Federation team sits calmly, observing the arriving crowd with cool confidence. An announcer takes the stage, officially welcoming the elite fighters from both universities to the combat exchange. A student complains about the announcer's long-winded intros, but his friend assures him it'll be quick this time. The announcer gets the hint, promising to skip the fluff and get straight to the action. He introduces the first combatant, the confident sophomore from the Indo-Federation, Azari. Facing him is their own sophomore Chi Hongying, who looks ready for a serious fight. In the stands, the Indo-Federation's professor approaches Azari for a last-minute strategy session. Azari scoffs dismissively while a teammate tends to his already bandaged arm. The professor reveals a critical piece of intel has been leaked, forcing a change in their plans. He hands Azari a high-tech bracer, ordering a more aggressive approach and warning him about Shu Tui's weapon. Azari looks concerned, wondering if his own mental attacks will be useless against the freshman. His professor reminds him of his near defeat against Chi Hongying, warning that Shu Tui's mental power could be just as strong. An academy reporter takes the stage, ready to interview the next fighters from the China Gene Evolution University. She turns to Shu Tui, asking if he's feeling the pressure of representing his school for the first time. With a confident smirk, he corrects her, stating that he's actually looking forward to the fight. He publicly declares he's fighting to defend the honor of his injured teacher, Professor An, against her rival's provocation. In the stands, an opposing fighter's expression hardens, realizing this personal grudge makes Shu Tui an even bigger target. The referee glances at his watch, clearly impatient to get the highly anticipated match underway. With a sharp gesture, he officially orders both combatants to take their positions in the arena. Shu Tui's wrist device buzzes with a campus news alert, hyping his fight as a battle to protect his professor's honor. The Indo-Federation leader calls out to his fighter, Azari, who is already walking onto the arena floor. The leader gives a chilling final order to another teammate, telling him to eliminate the freshman. The Indo-Federation fighter smirks, confirming he understands the grim order. The two combatants take their positions at opposite ends of the vast, high-tech arena. Equipped with advanced bracers, Azari signals his readiness for the duel. Shu Tui wastes no time, summoning his flying sword and projectiles to begin the fight. He immediately launches a volley of glowing metal spheres across the arena floor. Azari expertly parries the first projectile with his bracer, unfazed by the opening attack. His eyes narrow with intense focus as he continues to deflect the incoming barrage. The Indo-Federation fighter skillfully weaves through the assault, blocking each sphere with precision. He even uses a powerful kick to knock away a projectile aimed at his lower body. Azari remains on the defensive, gracefully evading and blocking the relentless stream of attacks. In the stands, the live streamer explains to her senior that this intense opening is just both fighters probing each other's defenses. She points out that Shu Tui hasn't even used his main weapon yet, letting his flying sword hover menacingly nearby. The analyst reveals Azari is using his shield to gather data on Shu Tui's attacks, likely for his master, Hiroj. Her senior is baffled, wondering why Shu Tui is holding back his strongest attack if this is just a warm-up. The live streamer realizes Shu Tui is actually increasing the power of his projectiles mid-fight. She explains he's using his flying sword to spin the spheres, building up centrifugal force for a more devastating attack. However, she admits she can't figure out what he plans to do with the flying sword itself. Azari grows frustrated, suspecting Shu Tui is trying to bait him into focusing on the sword while attacking with the spheres. Tired of the defensive game, Azari reveals a hidden blade from his bracer, preparing a surprise counterattack. He launches the hidden projectile, a blur of purple energy streaking across the arena towards Shu Tui. Azari decides to neutralize the metal spheres first, batting them away with a flourish. Shu Tui just smirks, revealing his opponent has fallen perfectly into his trap. With his foe distracted, he finally unleashes his main weapon, the flying sword. The glowing blade streaks across the arena, aimed directly at the preoccupied Azari. Azari's eyes widen as he realizes the true danger was never the projectiles. In a flashback, the Indo-Federation leader analyzes Shu Tui's tendency to be soft-hearted in battle. He instructs Azari to simply dodge the first sword strike, predicting Shu Tui will aim to injure, not eliminate. Azari questions the strategy, wondering why only the first attack matters. The leader reveals their intel has uncovered a fatal weakness in the freshman's flying sword technique. Back in the present, Azari grins with manic confidence, fully prepared to exploit that very weakness. Azari easily sidesteps the attack, watching the sword embed itself uselessly in the arena floor. He grins maniacally, realizing his professor's analysis of Shu Tui's weakness was spot on. He taunts the freshman, revealing he knows the sword lacks power and relies on speed for impact. Azari explains that this reliance on speed sacrifices control, leaving the weapon stuck after a single strike. Shu Tui's shocked expression seems to confirm the theory, as Azari declares him defenseless. Believing his opponent is disarmed, Azari charges in for the final decisive blow. But Shu Tui just smirks, calmly admitting the analysis is correct but completely irrelevant. From the stands, the Indo-Federation leader's eyes widen in horror as he screams a warning. His teammate joins in, desperately telling Azari to watch his back. Azari freezes in confusion, completely unaware of the new threat looming behind him. The Indo-Federation leader lunges forward in a panic, desperately trying to halt the match. But it's too late. As a metal sphere streaks past Azari's face, the real attack he never saw coming. The next thing Azari sees is the concerned Reversible, declaring the match over in the most final way possible. Professor Haraj stares in disbelief, his expression shifting from shock to pure, unadulterated rage. Shu Tui calmly addresses the rival professor, mocking his student's fatal underestimation of him. Haraj's face contorts with fury, his eyes burning with a silent, murderous promise. Unfazed, Shu Tui watches with a cold smirk as the medical team removes his defeated opponent from the arena. A wave of stunned chatter ripples through the audience, who can't believe the fight ended so suddenly and decisively. The live streamer asks her senior for an explanation, admitting everyone was completely fooled by Shu Tui's strategy. She explains that everyone, including the enemy team, was fixated on the flying sword as the primary threat. The analyst reveals his true killing move was a silver pellet that had been split in two, creating an unpredictable attack. The senior realizes Shu Tui has been setting up this strategy since his fight with the archer, and this is just the start. Meanwhile, Shu Tui's followers immediately thinking of ways to monetize his fame. A greedy grin spreads across his face as he realizes he's found a new way to make money. On the other side of the arena, the Indo-Federation's leader sits in grim silence, contemplating his team's loss. A close-up reveals his tense expression as he admits they've seriously underestimated their opponent. He rises to address his remaining fighters, vowing to teach their rivals a harsh lesson in the next round. Professor Hu approaches Shu Tui, praising him for a flawless and decisive victory. Shu Tui worries about the fallout, but the professor assures him the academy will cover any costs. He's then handed 2 vials of high-grade medicine to replenish his energy for the next round. The freshman is stunned, asking if he's expected to pay for the expensive supplies. Learning it's free, Shu Tui wastes no time chugging the recovery drink while the professor laughs. Professor Hu then presents him with another gift, a sleek high-tech box. Inside is a brand new set of his signature silver projectiles, perfectly arranged. Shu Tui is blown away by the academy's investment, realizing the high stakes of his performance. Fired up, he gives a confident thumbs up, promising to deliver a win for the school. From a high balcony, the university president observes the exchange, keeping a close eye on his star freshman. The referee calls for the Indo-Federation's next fighter, ready to start the second match. A confident foot steps forward, signaling the arrival of a new challenger. A flamboyant fighter named Saruko steps up, volunteering to take on the next round. Professor Hu's face pales with recognition, shocking his student with his sudden alarm. He identifies the newcomer as a powerful water user from the mysterious department, but senses something is wrong. The professor interrupts the match, publicly accusing the Indo-Federation of fielding a third-year student. The referee demands Saruko explain his eligibility, threatening disqualification if he can't justify his presence. Saruko calmly claims a training accident forced him to repeat a year, making him technically a sophomore. Professor Hu and his student exchange looks of disbelief, questioning the convenient excuse. The crowd erupts, accusing the rival school of cheating out of desperation, but Saruko just smirks at their outrage. Saruko hurls an insult back at the crowd, completely unbothered by their anger. An Indo-Federation official explains they had to urgently update the roster information with the Chinese side. He adds that providing further proof will take time, a convenient delay tactic. Professor Hu fumes, knowing they can easily forge documents to support their flimsy excuse. He theorizes this was a calculated move, a direct counter to Shu Tui's impressive performance in the last match. The professor suggests Shu Tui should sit this one out, but the freshman scoffs, unafraid of their transparent scheme. Reluctantly, Professor Hu briefs him on Saruko's known abilities, which include powerful ice-based attacks and high endurance. Shu Tui observes his opponent drinking from a personal bottle, noting the unusual preparation for a water user. The referee overrules the complaint. Shu Tui raises his hand and formally accepts the match, surprising the referee with his confidence. With a confident grin, Shu Tui eagerly accepts the challenge. He stares down his opponent from across the massive arena, completely unfazed. Shu Tui boldly declares that his side doesn't need to resort to cheap tricks to win. From the stands, a furious Professor Haraj silently vows to see the freshman eliminated. The professor watches from afar as the two combatants prepare for their duel on the vast stage. A sinister smirk crosses Haraj's face, hinting at a hidden plan to ensure his victory. Saruko flashes a wide, arrogant grin, clearly underestimating his freshman opponent. With his weapon summoned and ready, Shu Tui signals he's prepared to begin the fight. As the match starts, Saruko immediately unleashes a powerful wave of water from his bottle. The water instantly freezes into massive ice spikes, erupting from the ground to block Shutui's opening volley. The live streamer notes both fighters are demonstrating incredible precision in their opening exchange. She questions her senior about Shutui's repetitive tactics, expecting more variety from his department. The analyst explains it's a blitz strategy, meant to overwhelm Saruko before he can build momentum. Their analysis is cut short as the senior realizes Saruko has turned his ice defense into a deadly offense. Shutui nimbly dodges the razor-sharp ice spikes that suddenly erupt from the arena floor. The senior is impressed, noting Saruko is skillfully controlling two separate lines of attack at once. Shutui leaps through the icy barrage, realizing his opponent is using a clever trick to conserve energy. His expression shifts to one of intense focus as he analyzes the unexpected strategy. He quickly deduces Saruko is using the bottled water as a trigger to pull moisture from the air. With the puzzle solved, Shutui launches a projectile in a wide, curving arc toward his opponent. Shutui realizes his opponent's defensive posture was just a clever setup for his next move. Saruko stomps his foot, sending ripples through the water covering the arena floor. He then launches himself forward, gliding across the wet surface with surprising speed. The water behind him instantly crystallizes, forming a trail of deadly ice. Saruko unleashes a barrage of sharp ice projectiles, turning the arena into a frozen kill zone. Shutui is forced on the defensive, narrowly dodging the lethal volley. He grits his teeth in frustration, realizing he's being pushed back by the relentless assault. The freshman expertly maneuvers through the storm of ice, which shatters harmlessly around him. Shutui grows concerned, noticing his opponent's attacks are changing shape and becoming more complex. His silver sphere is suddenly trapped and crushed by a cage of converging ice spikes, revealing a new threat. Saruko's ice spikes converge, completely encasing and crushing Shutui's projectile. Shutui watches in alarm as his neutralized spheres hang in the air, his control over them severed. The frozen projectiles plummet to the ground, shattering uselessly at his feet. He realizes his mental connection was cut, deducing his opponent's ice has a disruptive property. Deciding he needs to end this fast, Shutui calculates the optimal distance for his next move. He discreetly drops a small, glowing blue sphere onto the arena floor, setting up a hidden trap. Shutui then launches another silver sphere, a powerful and direct feint to draw his opponent's attention. Saruko scoffs at the predictable attack, mocking the freshman's pure, unbridled fury. Shutui, however, just offers a cool, knowing smirk, his victory absolute and undeniable. A wave of stunned silence washes over the entire stadium, the crowd unable to process the sudden turn of events. Even the expert analysts are left speechless, struggling to comprehend how the freshman pulled off such a swift victory. The live streamer breaks down the fight, explaining Shutui used a shattered pellet to create a brilliant misdirection. She shows a replay where Saruko's focus on the explosion created a fatal opening in his defense. In that split second, Shutui landed a mental attack, completely disrupting his opponent's rhythm. The analyst reveals the flying sword was just a decoy to distract the referee while the real attack was launched. The two commentators look down at the arena, finally grasping the terrifying depth of the freshman's strategy. Her senior concludes that Shutui had countered every possible move, fully intending to eliminate his opponent from the start. The campus broadcast explodes with comments, a mix of awe, fear, and outright adoration for the freshman's ruthless victory. The university president praises the intelligent new talent, while his colleague eagerly offers to take Shutui as his own disciple. The president informs him he's too late, prompting the colleague to demand who beat him to it. He's left stunned when the president reveals Shutui is already the student of Xiaoxue from Research Institute 14. The colleague sweats, realizing he can't poach a student from the formidable Xiaoxue. He admits to the president that he also wanted to recruit the freshman, but now they've both lost their chance. The president sternly rebukes his colleague's defeatist attitude. He boldly claims that as a student of the university, Shutui is technically his student as well. The colleague understands the hidden message, a warning not to interfere with Research Institute 14. He now wonders if Shutui will continue his winning streak or finally step down from the arena. Meanwhile, an Indo-Federation fighter glares with pure hatred as medics carry away his defeated teammate. From the stage, Shutui scoffs at the display of anger, completely unfazed by the animosity. Enraged by the disrespect, the rival fighter vows to personally eliminate Shutui in the next round. Unseen by the furious fighter, someone in the crowd captures his dramatic threat on their device. A student in the crowd captures the moment, ready to post the fighter's dramatic vow online. The post goes live, publicly framing the next fight as a defense of Professor Anne's honor against her rival's student. The enraged fighter, Lankon, makes his way toward the arena, his expression grim and determined. His teammate confirms it's his turn, officially selecting him as the next challenger for the third round. Professor Hu approaches Xu Tui, praised mental exhaustion as the reason. Lang Kan stares at his device in disbelief, his expression hardening as he processes the announcement. His shock quickly turns to pure, unadulterated rage as he realizes he's been publicly humiliated. The furious fighter smashes his device on the ground, erupting in a tantrum in front of his stunned teammates. One of the female students beside Xu Tui points out the dramatic outburst across the arena. Xu Tui watches the spectacle with a cold smirk, his psychological warfare a complete success. One of his female companions offers a medical kit, but Xu Tui only needs a single energy-restoring vial. He quickly downs the potion, beginning the process of recovering his spent mental energy. Xu Tui decides to take a quick nap, trusting his friend to wake him if the situation calls for it. The announcer kicks off the fourth round, pitting the enraged Lang Kan against a new Chinese fighter, Miao Haishan. In the stands, a student watches nervously, aware that the day's matches have already been brutal. Miao Haishan prepares for a tough fight, hoping to at least gather some useful intel on his formidable opponent. He immediately goes on the offensive, slamming his hands on the ground to summon a wave of earth spikes. Lang Kan smirks, effortlessly leaping over the attack as if it were child's play. With a flick of his wrist, Lang Kan unleashes a purple energy blade that slices through the earth spikes. Miao Haishan can only watch in disbelief as his powerful opening move is completely nullified. Miao Haishan quickly throws up a rock shield, bracing for Lang Kan's counterattack. Lang Kan appears in a flash, his energy blade easily slicing through the makeshift defense. A cruel smirk spreads across Lang Kan's face as he overpowers his opponent with ease. The rock shield shatters into fragments under the force of the powerful purple blade. Miao Haishan is thrown off balance, his defense completely obliterated by the relentless assault. He lands hard, crying out as lingering wisps of purple energy surround him, but Lang Kan is nowhere to be seen. Utterly confused, Miao Haishan questions the nature of his opponent's baffling teleportation ability. He steels his resolve, determined to at least gather some intel on his enemy before he's defeated. Lang Kan suddenly materializes behind him, a blade already at his throat, ending any hope of a comeback. A protective energy field activates just in time, but the blade still finds its mark, ending the match decisively. Lang Kan's eyes narrow, his victory swift and absolute. The referee officially declares Lang Kan the winner of the fourth match. With a cruel smirk, Lang Kan holds his defeated opponent, savoring the decisive win. A Chinese teammate slams his fist in frustration, furious at how close the fight was. Another fighter volunteers to go next, believing he can counter Lang Kan's melee-focused style. Professor Hu looks on grimly, admitting there's little more he can do to help. The audience murmurs, realizing the intensity of the fight proves Xu Tui has truly angered Professor Heroj. Suddenly, a student in the crowd points out a striking new figure arriving in the stands. The camera reveals Professor An Xiaoxue, her presence immediately silencing the nearby spectators. The crowd erupts in speculation, wondering if she's there to support her student or confront her rival. From the upper stands, Professor An, his blue sword clashing violently with Lang Kan's purple energy blade. The sophomore leader stands his ground, surrounded by lingering energy, searching for his teleporting foe. With a focused glare, Qishi swings his weapon, anticipating another lightning-fast assault. Lang Kan reappears in a blur of motion, sliding across the arena floor with incredible speed. The two combatants face off from a distance, the air crackling with the anticipation of their next clash. Qishi's face is a mask of grim determination, while Lang Kan meets his gaze with a smug, confident smirk. Qishi launches himself into the air, preparing to bring his massive sword down in a devastating overhead strike. Lang Kan effortlessly dodges the attack, leaping aside as the sword smashes into the arena floor with explosive force. The Indo-Federation fighter lands with a cocky grin, completely unfazed by his opponent's show of power. Qishi realizes Lang Kan's relentless speed and explosive power are giving him no room to breathe. The two fighters clash in a blur of motion, their glowing weapons meeting with incredible force. For a split second, Lang Kan's confident expression falters as he feels the pressure of Qishi's strength. Qishi expertly parries another lightning-fast strike, their blades locking in a struggle for dominance. With a powerful swing, the sophomore leader finally breaks through, sending his opponent tumbling across the arena. But Lang Kan recovers instantly, using his incredible speed to reposition for another assault. A sinister grin spreads across Lang Kan's face, revealing he's enjoying being pushed to his limits. He mockingly praises the sophomore leader, acknowledging that his reputation is well-deserved. Unfazed by the taunt, Qishi grits his teeth and charges forward, ready to end the fight. Lang Kan's smirk returns as he prepares to unleash his full power, promising to give it his all. Lang Kan closes the distance in a flash, his purple dagger poised for a decisive strike. He lunges through the air, aiming to overwhelm Qishi with sheer speed and aggression. Qishi grits his teeth, barely managing to block the vicious attack with his massive sword. The force of the blow sends the sophomore leader stumbling backward, struggling to maintain his footing. Refusing to be overpowered, Kuishi roars with defiance, vowing not to go down without a fight. In a desperate move, he uses a powerful kick to create an opening and break Lankan's momentum. The risky gambit pays off as his sword shatters Lankan's bracer in a shower of sparks. Lankan stumbles back, his arm smoking from the powerful blow, a look of pained surprise on his face. Both fighters realize the tide has turned, as Lankan assesses his injury with a grimace. Despite the damage, Lankan grins maniacally and re-engages, their blades clashing in a furious exchange. Kuishi cries out in agony as Lankan's attack finds its mark. The Indo-Federation fighter lands a brutal blow, sending the sophomore leader reeling. Kuishi clutches his arm, which is now coursing with his opponent's lingering purple energy. Professor Hu watches with grave concern as the referee considers ending the match. Despite his severe injury, Kuishi defiantly insists he can still continue the fight. The professor is stunned by his student's unwavering and reckless determination. In a stunning reversal, Kuishi stands over his kneeling opponent, seemingly victorious. But Lankan just grins maniacally, taunting the injured sophomore leader to finish him. Fueled by rage, Kuishi's eyes glow as he channels all his remaining energy for a final strike. He charges forward with a furious roar, determined to end the fight once and for all. Kuishi's final attack misses as Lankan teleports away, leaving the sophomore leader completely exposed. Professor Hu screams in a desperate attempt to stop the fight, knowing what's coming next. The sophomore leader turns in horror, realizing Lankan has reappeared directly behind him. With a vicious grin, Lankan promises to make sure Kuishi's arm is never used again. He erupts in a fit of cruel laughter, raising his dagger to deliver the crippling blow. The blade descends, aimed directly at the sophomore leader's already wounded arm. Kuishi cries out as the purple energy from the attack engulfs his arm, sealing his fate. But at the last second, a blue energy shield materializes, deflecting the devastating strike. The president's colleague intervenes from the stands, projecting a powerful barrier to save his student. Shutui, now wide awake, stares in disbelief, shocked by the brutal turn of events. The Indo-Federation professor erupts, formally protesting steps down from his platform to mediate the escalating dispute between the two parties. He internally reviews the rules, noting that intervention is only permitted when a life is at stake. The chief referee makes a controversial ruling, upholding the protest and declaring Lankan the winner by default. He then addresses both teams, asking if there are any. Kuishi looks up toward the official's platform with respect. He offers a deep bow to the professor who intervened, a silent thank you for saving his arm. From his high vantage point, the university president watches the scene unfold with a calm, knowing smile. As medics escort the injured sophomore away, his teammates call out his name in a show of support. Shutui and his friends shout words of encouragement, praising Kuishi's valiant effort. Kuishi smirks, realizing that even in defeat, he managed to land a significant blow on his opponent. The crowd erupts in cheers as the Jumbotron replays his heroic stand, celebrating him as a winner in their eyes. Shutui's companion points out Kuishi's resilience, while Shutui watches with a newfound respect for the sophomore leader. Deciding it's time to regroup, Shutui suggests they head back to Professor Hu to discuss their new strategy. The Indo-Federation leader asks Lankan if he can continue the fight, acknowledging the severe injury to his arm. He offers Lankan a stimulant, intending to push his starfighter even further in the next round. With a cold expression, the leader orders Lankan to continue eliminating their opponents without mercy. Professor Hu gathers his remaining students, asking who feels prepared to face Lankan next after understanding that wasting this one chance will make the fight nearly impossible to win. He sets his plan in motion, surrounding himself with spinning crystalline project. Even the Indo-Federation team is left speechless, their star player taken down in an instant. The challenger stands over his fallen opponent, planting a foot on his back to declare his absolute dominance. He internally remarks on his opponent's bad luck, having walked right into his perfectly laid trap. The commentators are completely baffled, struggling to find the words to explain the sudden upset. The male analyst jokes that Lankan must have been hit by a ghost, as there was no visible attack. His partner clarifies the brilliant strategy. The challenger had set a transparent spiritual trap from the very beginning. The analyst explains Lankan's inability to sense spiritual power led him to blindly charge into the invisible trap. A simplified replay shows the high-speed fighter colliding with the spiritual wall, effectively knocking himself out. She compares the outcome to a jet hitting a bird, a devastating he won so easily. He heads back to his team as medics carry the unconscious Lankan away on a stretcher. Elsewhere, a mysterious figure replays the fight on a holographic screen, analyzing the final decisive moment. The viewer is revealed to be a blue-haired man in a disheveled room, his focus entirely on the match footage. His expression shifts to one of furious recognition as he identifies the winning move as a spiritual cone. The blue-haired man breaks into a cold sweat, realizing the terrifying power of the person he provoked. He slumps against a wall, understanding that his previous opponent had shown incredible mercy by letting him walk away. Elsewhere, a student with glasses sits on a camp having many weak connections. The student looks stunned. Haroj turns with a taunt, asking if his rival has finally come to face him. His arrogant demeanor instantly shatters as he spots a familiar figure in the stands. Professor An Xiaoxu stands on a high balcony, having arrived to answer his challenge in person. She calmly announces her arrival, her presence immediately silencing the arena. Haroj breaks into a cold sweat, completely rattled by her unexpected appearance. Professor An walks confidently along the balcony, her every step drawing the stunned gazes of the crowd. Haroj realizes with dawning horror that his rival can now walk on air, a sign of her increased power. She hovers above the arena floor, calmly bringing up the challenge he so publicly issued. From high in the sky, she looks down at the arena, her student watching from below. With an icy gaze, she asks if he's ready to proceed with their unfinished business. Haroj sweats bullets, the weight of his public challenge suddenly crashing down on him. Professor An stands with an imposing presence, her power undeniable to everyone watching. Her expression remains unreadable, a silent dare to her cornered rival. The Indo-Federation professor internally curses, confirming her strength has grown far beyond his expectations. He understands that refusing to fight now would bring even greater shame to his entire federation. It's the result of her research institute's famously eccentric and advanced work. The professor realizes with a grim expression that Research Institute 14 is progressing faster than anyone imagined. Xu Tui rushes to her side, but she dismisses his concern, stating her hand injury is irrelevant to her fighting style. Her gaze then shifts to two mysterious women watching from the stands. The two women share a knowing look, clearly aware of Professor An's true capabilities. She explains her white hair is a harmless gene variation, hinting he might experience it too. Xu Tui questions her readiness, but she dismisses his concern with a single confident glance. Across the arena, Professor Haroj grits his teeth, sweating under the immense pressure. A group of high-ranking officials steps forward to formally oversee the impromptu duel. A senior advisor from the Indo-Federation is introduced as one of the match's official who is shield, the sheer force of the impact sending him skidding backward. Professor An watches with a cool, confident smirk, completely in control of the fight. Her hair morphs into countless sharp needles, effortlessly piercing through his cracking defense. From the stands, the Indo-Federation leader watches with grim intensity, his own power flaring in response. The shield shatters completely, sending a helpless Haroj flying into the air. He's left completely exposed, surrounded by a storm of her deadly needle-like projectiles. His face contorts in disbelief, realizing he's been utterly and completely outmatched. A single, precise energy needle finds its mark, striking his leg and ending his mobility. Haraj's eyes widen in horror as another energy needle embeds itself in his forehead. With a single command, Professor An detonates the energy in his arm, causing him immense pain. She coldly explains this is payback for his previous sneak attack, a lesson in consequences. The remaining needles detonate across his body, leaving him writhing in agony on the arena floor. The Indo-Federation leader glares, enraged by her ruthless display of power. He unleashes a massive wave of energy, intervening to save his subordinate from further humiliation. Professor An calmly advises her defeated rival to use official channels for any future challenges. She walks away, leaving him to contemplate how he's become a public joke. The home crowd erupts in cheers, fully supporting their professor and mocking the rival team's cheap tactics. An official approaches her in the medical bay, apologizing for his intervention but justifying it to save a life. The Indo-Federation leader tries to smooth things over, offering rare mutant creatures as an apology for Haraj's disrespect. Professor An coolly accepts the peace offering before turning to leave, the matter now settled. Later, in the bustling high-tech city, the aftermath of the tournament begins to unfold. Xu Tui's wrist device lights up with notifications, confirming a hefty cash prize and a load of merit points for his victory. Sitting down for a meal, he can't help but be impressed by the university's generous rewards. But his celebration is cut short when Professor An assigns him a 3,000-word battle report, much to his dismay. While contemplating his new homework, Xu Tui notices someone approaching his table from behind. A friend arrives, apologizing for his tardiness as Xu Tui welcomes him to the celebratory meal. The friend immediately pours a glass of wine, eager to toast the day's big winner. Xu Tui modestly downplays his incredible performance as his friend praises his shocking display in the arena. The friend gets straight to the point, sensing this meeting is about more than just dinner. Shu Tui reveals his plan to cash in his newly earned merit points, offering his friend a cut of the deal. His friend advises against it, suggesting that from a friend's perspective, it's a bad move. He explains that merit points are a rare and valuable currency, especially for those fighting abroad. Changing his approach, the friend asks exactly how much cash Shu Tui is trying to raise. With a confident grin, Shu Tui holds up 5 fingers, signaling a massive number. He names a staggering price of at least 500,000, leaving his friend completely stunned. The friend falls silent, carefully weighing the options and the huge sum of money involved. He's so deep in thought that he starts drooling, clearly captivated by the scale of the proposal. After considering, he presents 3 detailed plans for Shu Tui to earn money, ranging from short-term missions to long-term brand deals. His friend breaks down the ad deal, warning that overexposure could cost him his fan base. Shu Tui listens intently, his expression showing he's leaning toward a faster, riskier path. With a confident grin, he asks for more details on the underground arena, his interest clearly piqued. The friend lays out the grim reality. The arena offers immense wealth, but at the cost of extreme danger. He leaves the final choice to Shu Tui, promising to handle the logistics once a decision is made. Back in his room, Shu Tui realizes that outsourcing his finances will let him focus entirely on his training. A sudden burst of blue energy signifies a major breakthrough in his cultivation. He's shocked by how easily he unlocked his basic Dantian, a crucial step in his power progression. As dawn breaks, he stretches and decides to consult a senior about this unexpected development. The scene shifts to the imposing, high-tech headquarters of the Jin Ancient Martial Arts Association. A student at the association excitedly praises Shu Tui's performance, gloating over their rival's defeat. He then nervously asks the flying swordsman if he's allowed inside and begs to see his famous weapon. Shu Tui playfully deflects, asking why the student is there, who explains he's visiting his master. The student Meng stumbles over his words, clearly intimidated by the freshman's presence. Meng has a sudden realization, asking if Shu Tui has already unlocked his basic Dantian, which he calmly confirms. Shu Tui confidently walks past, leaving the stunned student to process the shocking news. Meng mutters in disbelief, unable to comprehend how it could be done in just 4 days, while Shu Tui asks to be led to Master Shen. Inside, an elderly master confirms the news, questioning if it really only took 4 days to achieve. Shu Tui corrects him, revealing it only took a single night of cultivation, leaving Meng completely speechless. The master, however, remains unimpressed, casually dismissing the incredible feat as merely average. Meng protests his master's nonchalant attitude, completely baffled by the lack of surprise. Shu Tui finds the old man's calm demeanor strange, but the master reveals he was already tipped off about the breakthrough. Impressed by his talent, Master Shen offers to take Shu Tui on as his personal disciple. Shu Tui bypasses the offer, instead asking if he can learn a technique not available to regular members. The master considers the bold request, intrigued by the freshman's ambition. He explains that while he possesses a powerful gene chain cultivation method, it's incredibly difficult to master. The master reveals the name of the secret art, the Vajra Tidal Force Field. A diagram shows the technique is a rare 5-layered body protection skill known by very few. With a proud look, the master reveals he is one of the few who has mastered the complete version. Shu Tui's eyes light up, realizing this is the perfect defensive ability he's been missing. Master Shen smugly decides to take the talented freshman under his wing, already planning to gloat to his rivals. He explains the traditionally elaborate ceremony, but offers a much simpler path to becoming his disciple. Without a moment's hesitation, Shu Tui drops to the floor and formally accepts the master's offer. The old master is overjoyed by the gesture, eagerly helping his new student to his feet. He begins to share their lineage's history, mentioning a legendary ancestor who made his name on foreign battlefields. Shu Tui looks up with a determined grin, ready to accept his new role and the challenges that come with it. The scene shifts to a dazzling, high-tech city at night, setting the stage for a celebratory event. Inside a lavish hotel, an extravagant buffet is laid out for the guests. A grand victory party is in full swing, celebrating the university's recent triumph in the exchange match. Shu Tui, looking out of place in a suit, lets out a sigh as he tries to get comfortable at the formal gathering. Professor Anne checks in on Shu Tui, who admits he's still not comfortable with all the media attention. She reveals she's been negotiating with the vice principal, securing him an assistant researcher position. The deal, however, puts the vice principal under intense scrutiny from a new financial inspector. Shu Tui is stunned, realizing she's making a bold political move to control the institute's finances. She advises him that while he's ruthless in battle, he still needs to sharpen his political instincts. He scratches his head with a wry smile, privately acknowledging how strict his mentor can be. but his expression hardens as he accepts her critique, knowing he needs to improve his cunning. Stepping aside, Shu Tui calls out a hidden observer, telling his AI companion to stop snooping. A grumpy holographic AI appears, but its mood brightens when Shu Tui praises its information-gathering skills. When Shu Tui mentions needing to hone his skills, the AI immediately suggests the perfect dangerous training ground, the underground arena. Annoyed but pragmatic, Shu Tui delegates the intel gathering for the arena to his holographic companion. The cheeky AI agrees to help, but only if Shu Tui accepts its two conditions. Its first demand is an outrageous $80 million hardware upgrade, leaving Shu Tui speechless at the price. The second condition is in motion, but a paradise for genetically enhanced individuals. They look out over a massive underground arena as his friend leads them toward the contestant area. A burly guard stops them at the entrance, but they confirm they're certified participants. The guard lays out the terms: a hefty appearance fee, a bonus for winning, and a shot at the champion after 10 victories. They enter the high-tech waiting room, a space filled with other formidable-looking fighters. His friend asks what nickname he'll use for the fight, suggesting something intimidating. The AI companion chimes in through his earpiece, insisting he use the name Huang Tianba. It then tries to bribe him with a secret about Professor An, while also threatening to spam him with digital dog barks. Intrigued by the offer of blackmail material, Shu Tui decides to humor the AI's strange request. He cheerfully announces his chosen nickname, leaving his friend completely baffled by the bizarre choice. Despite his embarrassment, Shu Tui officially registers under the bizarre nickname Huang Tianba. The scene shifts to the arena, where Shu Tui leaps through the air, dodging a fiery assault from below. His red-haired opponent scoffs, unimpressed by the flashy acrobatics and calling the move simplistic. Shu Tui grits his teeth, internally mocking his opponent's predictable and straightforward attack style. The fighter taunts him, claiming such basic tricks are only effective against sheltered university students. He stands over a seemingly defeated Shu Tui, lecturing him on the high stakes of the underground arena. Unseen by his opponent, a tiny silver pellet rolls out from beneath Shu Tui's shoe. The red-haired fighter prepares to deliver a finishing blow, warning Shu Tui not to blame him for the outcome. As the weapon is aimed at his head, Shu Tui admits he's underestimated the brutality of real combat. In a sudden reversal, the opponent is sent flying, as Shu Tui realizes this is the best place to gain true fighting experience. The red-haired fighter analyzes Shu Tui's technique, impressed by the creative use of fire propulsion. But Shu Tui grits his teeth, a confident glint in his eye revealing he's far from finished. The tiny silver pellets on the ground begin to glow, a hidden trap now activated. His opponent steps forward, completely unaware of the danger lying at his feet. He aims his weapon for the final shot, confident in his impending victory. His finger tightens on the trigger, ready to end the match decisively. A sly smirk spreads across Shu Tui's face as his counterplan falls into place. The opponent's weapon suddenly backfires, erupting in a massive, contained explosion. He stares in shock at his smoking, ruined weapon, completely baffled by the malfunction. Shu Tui calmly explains he used his psychic power to block the muzzle, turning his opponent's own weapon against him. The red-haired fighter scoffs, confident he's still a threat even without his support weapon. Shu Tui points out the flaw in his logic, questioning why he'd risk close combat against someone with similar powers. His opponent reveals his trump card, fire propulsion that grants him unmatched speed, making escape impossible. Unimpressed, Shu Tui announces he's about to test a new technique he learned from his professor on him. The fighter's pride is wounded, furious at being treated as a mere test subject in a serious fight. Enraged, he unleashes his full power, surrounding himself in a vortex of flames to finish the match. He rockets forward, launching a devastating fiery assault to overwhelm his disrespectful opponent. But Shu Tui just smirks, calmly anticipating the attack as if it's all part of his plan. As the punch flies, a strange blue energy suddenly wraps around the attacker's arm, disrupting his momentum. The fighter recoils in agony as the mysterious energy constricts him, turning his own attack into a painful trap. The fighter cries out in confusion, completely baffled by quickly identifies the fighter as Shu Tui, the famous flying swordsman, intrigued by his sudden has accessed and shared his personal data. Shu Tui's expression darkens, realizing the arena's management is investigating him behind the scenes. He asks his AI to trace the data, but it confirms the encryption is too strong to break remotely. The AI then delivers even worse news. A pirate squad is now targeting him, and his ride has been sabotaged. The AI pulls up a holographic schematic of his sabotaged vehicle, beginning its analysis. It zooms in on a tiny object on the windshield, prompting Shu Tui to question what he's seeing. The AI chides him for his ignorance, clearly unimpressed by his lack of knowledge on the subject. It identifies the object as a nanobot used for positioning, confirming Shu Tui's suspicion that they're being tracked. Shu Tui demands to know who's after him, and the AI projects the intel directly from his wrist device. The data reveals their pursuers are the infamous blood ant pirates, a major threat in the Asia-Pacific waters. A chart illustrates the group's decentralized structure, with core members leading independent squads. The AI explains their success comes from a powerful intelligence network that makes them ruthlessly efficient. Shu Tui connects this new information to a specific group, the Black Sword Ant Pirate Squad. Realizing the danger, he immediately contacts a friend to inquire about the cost of hiring a private bodyguard. Shu Tui informs his friend that they're being targeted by the notorious blood ant pirates. His panicked friend immediately offers to cover most of the cost for a private bodyguard, admitting they're completely vulnerable. The mention of a strong person gives Shu Tui a brilliant idea. With a confident smirk, he tells his friend to hold on while he makes a call, a plan already forming in his mind. The next morning, the vast open ocean sets the stage for the coming confrontation. 3 high-speed watercraft cut through the waves, closing in on their target. The pirate leader orders his squad to keep their distance, not wanting to risk their million-dollar prize by spooking the target. His subordinates report that their target's vehicle has suddenly slowed to a stop. The leader watches the lone vehicle in the distance, questioning the sudden change in speed. A crew member reports someone getting out on a skateboard, leading them to believe the vehicle has simply broken down. The pirate leader watches from his boat, assuming his target's vehicle has conveniently broken down. With a confident grin, he orders his squad to accelerate and prepare for battle. The 3 pirate vessels speed across the water, closing in on their seemingly stranded prey. Shu Tui plays the part of a stranded traveler, asking the approaching pirates for help with his vehicle. The leader smirks, believing his target has fallen right into his hands with surprising ease. He eagerly prepares to spring his trap on the unsuspecting student. The pirate squad completes their encirclement, leaving Shu Tui with no apparent escape route. One of the pirates pops up with a heavy weapon, gleefully taunting his cornered victims. But before he can fire, a blur of motion signifies a swift and unexpected counterattack. The pirates cry out in shock as they're struck by precise, unseen projectiles, their ambush completely foiled. Blue energy projectiles rip through the water, striking the pirate vessels with explosive force. The pirate leader leaps from his damaged craft, ready to intervene on his behalf. Back in the present, Shu Tui looks over the floating wreckage, stunned by how effortlessly she dismantled an entire pirate squad. Professor Ann hovers above them, delegating the cleanup of the pirate wreckage to the 2 students. Shu Tui's friend points out their lack of transportation, leaving Shu Tui to awkwardly figure out a solution. With a look of intense concentration, Shu Tui decides to improvise a way across the water. He casually flings him through the air, much to the friend's astonishment. The pirate lands with a thud on the hood of their vehicle, completely neutralized. Professor Ann instructs them to secure their cap. Time later, they finally make their way back to the gleaming, high-tech cityscape. They arrive in a futuristic parking garage, the pirate situation apparently handled off-screen. His friend stretches in relief and asks for their next move, which Shu Tui decides is a food run for Professor Ann. The friend complains about his hunger, but points out the more pressing issue of what to do with their captured pirates. He gestures to their hall, worried about handling the defeated pirates and their 3 confiscated flying cars. Having sorted out their pirate problem, they head to a bustling food street to grab a meal. Shu Tui places an order with a mustachioed chef, picking out a few specific dishes.
He thoughtfully considers his professor's preferences.
Attention back to his professor, ready to serve the lunch he brought. Professor Ann casually invites the new inspector to join their meal. Li Yuanan eagerly accepts the offer with a pleased expression. Shu Tui feigns embarrassment, revealing he only brought 1 pair of chopsticks as Professor An tries to hide a laugh. A few days later, Professor An notes that the inspector seems content to observe, showing no signs of meddling in their research. Shu Tui admits to his professor that the new inspector's behavior is making him suspicious. He explains that she arrives at the high-tech research facility every day dressed for a night out. He's convinced she has an ulterior motive, sensing she's not there just to work. The freshman reveals she has even tried inviting him out on several occasions. He resolves to find a way to get rid of this woman before she causes real trouble. The inspector then makes her move, asking him to help her move into the institute that weekend. A glint appears in Shu Tui's eye as he realizes this could be the perfect opportunity to uncover her plan. He puts on a friendly act and agrees to her request, promising to be there on time. The inspector smirks to herself, confident that her young, energetic target has finally taken the bait. Elsewhere, her handler confirms their mission: get close to Shu Tui and steal the institute's research data. The inspector smirks, believing her plan to get close to Shu Tui will fast-track her mission. She internally justifies using him, seeing it as a necessary step for a promotion and a raise. She watches him leave, callously thinking of him as a useful replacement for her previous unhelpful boyfriends. A blush creeps across her face as she considers his attractive qualities, adding a personal interest to her professional mission. Saturday arrives, setting the scene at the high-tech institute for the inspector's planned move. Professor Ann waits in the lab, her expression unreadable as she anticipates the day's events. A lab door slides open, signaling the arrival of a key player in the unfolding drama. Shu Tui enters, cryptically telling his professor to wait and see when she asks why he's not helping the inspector. Elsewhere, the inspector applies her makeup, getting ready for what she believes is a date disguised as moving day. Her doorbell rings and she turns with a pleased expression, expecting her target to be right on time. She calls out as she heads to the door, dressed to impress for her expected guest. A confident smirk plays on her lips, certain her plan to charm the freshman is working perfectly. But her smile vanishes when she opens the door to find a group of professional movers instead of Shu Tui. Her flirty demeanor dissolves into pure confusion, completely thrown off by the unexpected arrivals. The lead mover explains they were hired at her request, leaving her utterly speechless. It dawns on her that Shu Tui has outplayed her, turning her romantic scheme into a practical joke. Her annoyance quickly turns into a new resolve. She decides to switch tactics and become more aggressive. The scene shifts to the bustling, futuristic campus, where other students are going about their day. The focus lands on the practical training center, hinting at Shu Tui's next destination. Inside, Shu Tui reunites with some old friends who playfully grill him about his recent absence. One of his friends jokingly accuses him of using them as practice dummies for his new abilities. Shu Tui turns away, mildly annoyed by his friend's non-stop commentary. The female friend steps forward, getting straight to the point and asking who he wants to spar with. He singles her out as the ideal opponent, and she agrees, eager to witness his progress firsthand. She takes her stance and asks for the rules, but he simply tells her to give it everything she's got. With a look of fierce determination, she clenches her fists and confirms if he's truly ready for her full power. Shu Tui gives a calm, confident nod, signaling he's prepared for whatever she can throw at him. Without another word, she stomps the ground and launches herself forward in a blur of motion. She soars through the air, unleashing a powerful kick as she declares the fight has begun. He observes her attack, impressed by her speed and noticing her form is much more controlled than before. Shu Tui calmly assesses his friend's improved technique, unimpressed by her powerful kick. Her attack is stopped dead by a glowing blue barrier, which she recognizes with shock as a force field. The energy shield ripples but holds strong, completely absorbing the force of her punch. With a sudden burst of power, Shu Tui effortlessly repels her attack. She winces in pain, clutching her hand after striking the impenetrable defense. Their concerned friend rushes to her side, checking to see if she's injured. Shu Tui internally reviews his new technique, pleased with its power but noting its high energy consumption. His friend expresses disbelief that he's already mastered an ability field, a feat rare even for older students. The friend calls an end to the spar and invites everyone out for a meal to celebrate. Professor An suddenly appears, extending a dinner invitation on behalf of someone else and offering him a ride. Shu Tui glances at the time and panics, realizing he's about to be late for his appointment. He bolts out the door, hastily rescheduling dinner and leaving his friends in the dust. His two friends are left completely stunned by his abrupt and mysterious departure. The male friend smirks, completely misreading the situation as a wingman move to set him up with their companion. Shu Tui waits outside on the campus grounds, looking toward the futuristic city skyline. A sleek white flying car suddenly swoops down from the sky, heading directly for him. The high-tech vehicle lands with impressive speed right in front of the waiting student. Professor Ann, looking cool in sunglasses, opens the door and tells him to get in. A crowd of onlookers cheers him on, inspired by his success as he heads for the car. The futuristic car takes off, soaring through the high-tech cityscape toward their destination. Professor An notices his depleted energy, questioning what he's been up to as he admits to a recent fight. She lectures him on his recklessness, advising him to set a safety threshold for his power to avoid future risks. Shu Tui takes her advice to heart, promising to be more mindful of his limits from now on. Their car ride ends in a bustling city district, arriving at a quaint little cafe. Inside, they meet their contact in a relaxed but months is the only free pass, and a high rank will force old rivals to grovel. With a fierce look, she promises that his success will be her chance to settle old scores with their enemies. A few days later, Shu Tui stands in a sterile lab, meeting with a woman surrounded by high-tech containers. He tries to rush through the paperwork, suggesting they handle the formalities online to save time. The assistant director insists on following protocol, citing the valuable research materials the institute provides. Annoyed by the red tape, Shu Tui reluctantly agrees but urges her to speed things up. She casually asks about Professor Anne's location, learning she's conveniently out on business. The news of her boss's absence sparks a sudden, opportunistic idea in the assistant director's mind. A sly smile spreads across her face as she realizes this is the perfect time to make her move. The scene shifts to a high-tech dressing room where the assistant director prepares her next move. She sheds her lab coat, feeling the pressure of a ticking clock. With a look of fierce determination, she decides today is the day she'll finally get to him. She adjusts her outfit, knowing she can't afford to miss this golden opportunity. She changes into a far more eye-catching ensemble, preparing a few special items to set the mood. With a final spritz of perfume, she commits to her now or never plan. Meanwhile, a loud crash from the storage area startles Shu Tui, who's been busy organizing supplies. He turns around, scratching his head in confusion as she suddenly appears behind him. Looking completely exhausted, he offers her a bottle of water and suggests they take a break. He casually hands her the drink, announcing he's finally finished his work, completely missing her entire setup. He does a classic spit take, completely stunned by her sudden and very revealing change of wardrobe. When he questions her outfit, she coolly claims she was just feeling a little warm. Zhu Tui's unimpressed reaction makes her realize her initial plan isn't working on him. But just as he dismisses her, he drops his water and clutches his chest, suddenly feeling unwell. His head spins as he struggles to understand the sudden wave of dizziness hitting him. His vision blurs, focusing on her lips as his perception of reality begins to warp. The world around him fades, leaving only hazy, alluring images of his supposed colleague. She reveals a small box of pills, her expression confirming she's the cause of his sudden state. His resistance crumbles as he finds himself completely captivated by her, wondering how he didn't notice her beauty before. She moves in close, offering him a remedy for his sudden weakness, her trap now perfectly set. She offers him another pill, and he accepts it in his dazed, infatuated state. But a flicker of his true self remains, instinctively pushing her away despite his confusion. He struggles against the drug's influence, demanding to know what she's done to him. She leans in closer, confidently whispering that he won't be able to resist her advances. His will begins to fade as he struggles to form a coherent sentence, nearly giving in. But their moment is interrupted by an unexpected visitor who witnesses the entire scene. The newcomer douses them both with a bucket of cold water, instantly breaking the spell. Before the inspector can react, she's met with a swift kick to the face from the blue-haired girl. The rescuer follows up her attack, clearly disgusted by the inspector's manipulative tactics. She pins the inspector to the ground, scolding her for targeting Shu Tui and warning her against such behavior. The blue-haired girl unleashes her fury, putting a decisive end to the inspector's scheme. As his head clears, Shu Tui recognizes the familiar voice of his unexpected savior. She stands over the defeated inspector, relieved she arrived just in time to prevent disaster. Helping the still-dazed Zhu Tui to his feet, she checks to see if he's okay. With a stern look, she scolds him for being so easily fooled by the inspector's obvious trap. She reveals the source of his confusion, a powerful pheromone perfume designed to manipulate him. Zhu Tui can only offer an embarrassed smile, acknowledging how foolish he'd been. His moment of levity is cut short when he spots Professor Anne standing silently in the doorway. Zhu Tui is shocked by her sudden return, but his rescuer admits she was the one who called for backup. Professor An inspects their captive, discovering she's rigged with active nano cameras, turning the situation far more serious. The blue-haired girl confidently reassures Zhu Tui, explaining she's already blocked the nano cameras from transmitting. Standing over their defeated captive, she asks Professor An how they should handle the situation. Zhu Tui suggests a permanent solution to prevent the vice dean from sending another spy. The terrified inspector overhears his chilling proposal: eliminate her and replace her with a clone. He confirms his ruthless idea with a calm smile, seeing it as the most logical path forward. Professor An dismisses the plan as too risky, pointing out a clone wouldn't hold up under scrutiny long term. Overhearing the cold-blooded discussion, the inspector breaks down and pleads for her life. Professor An begins her interrogation, demanding to know the inspector's true motives for targeting Shu Tui. The inspector quickly confesses she was sent by Dean Liu to control Shu Tui and steal research data. Professor An remains unimpressed by the confession, her expression suggesting she believes there's more to the story. The defeated inspector swears she's telling the absolute truth, desperate to save herself. The blue-haired girl confirms the confession, reporting that biological data shows a 99% chance she's not lying. Professor An lifts the captive, deciding to handle the interrogation privately and dismissing Shu Tui. She instructs Shu Tui to head back, leaving her and the blue-haired girl to deal with their spy. As he walks away, Shu Tui glances back, wondering what fate awaits the captured inspector. He turns and leaves the three women to their business. still processing the strange turn of events. His thoughts are interrupted by an urgent call on his wrist device from a Mr. Wen. The caller curtly summons him to his office for an important matter. Xu Tui is left puzzled after the caller hangs up after just one sentence, leaving him with no details. Shrugging off the mystery, he heads toward the office to find out what the summons is about. Xu Tui arrives at Mr. Wen's office, who hands him a document with a smug look. He reads the notice, which details his 52 missed classes and an impending official warning. Xu Tui argues he filed for leave, but Mr. Wen implies that's the only thing saving him from a harsher penalty. He cleverly points out a loophole, stating he never received the required preliminary warning. Mr. Wen counters, claiming he sent 2 messages that served as warnings and telling Xu Tui to check his device. The freshman is stunned, realizing he might have overlooked something crucial. His communicator displays a casual message from months ago, which hardly qualifies as an official notice. Xu Tui grits his teeth, understanding he's been expertly manipulated and led into a trap. A flashback shows him vowing to Professor Anne that he'll dominate the rankings to make his rivals grovel. The memory of her determined gaze strengthens his resolve to follow through on his promise. He realizes this is a deliberate ploy to keep him from competing in the rankings. With a cold stare, Xu Tui asks Mr. Wen if he finds this whole situation funny. Mr. Wen smugly explains the warning is just a formality, reminding him the 3-month probation will soon be over. A determined glint in his eye, Xu Tui agrees but warns he has something important to say. He grabs the man's hand, explaining that he's very protective of what's in his pockets. Leaning in close, Xu Tui's intense gaze accuses Mr. Wen of stealing from him. He reveals that the warning will cost him a valuable E-class potion every single month. Turning to leave, Xu Tui delivers a final chilling message that Mr. Wen asked for this. He pauses at the door, promising that his opponent will be begging him for mercy soon enough. The door slams shut, leaving the stunned administrator to contemplate the consequences of his actions. Mr. Wen smirks, completely underestimating the freshman's threat and dismissing it as childish. Xu Tui walks down a sterile corridor, his mind racing as he pieces together the conspiracy against him. He realizes that past events, including a battle from 2 months ago, were all part of this elaborate setup. The freshman deduces this is a coordinated attack, a sign of the rivalry between the extraordinary and mysterious departments. Looking down at a training ground, he watches other students spar, a new strategy taking shape. He decides that if his opponents are using dirty tactics, he's more than justified in fighting fire with fire. Xu Tui makes his way through the bustling training area, a man on a mission. A couple of students spot him from a distance, instantly recognizing the legendary flying swordsman. In moments, a crowd surrounds him, eagerly challenging him to a fight and begging for a demonstration. Xu Tui playfully deflects, pointing out that fighting all of them would be an impossible drain on his energy. Seeing an opportunity, Xu Tui agrees to a fight and tells the students to raise their hands if they want a shot. He smirks at the eager crowd, casually asking how many challengers he should take on. The entire group erupts, every student desperately volunteering for a chance to face him. He points into the crowd, selecting a student in a hat who celebrates his good fortune. Xu Tui turns to his chosen opponents, putting the pressure on by telling them not to disappoint the audience. He then ups the ante, suggesting that with a few more people, he could easily handle a 4-on-1 match. 2 professors interrupt the commotion, and a student eagerly explains Xu Tui's bold challenge. One of the professors questions Xu Tui's sanity for attempting a 1 versus 4 fight, but he remains perfectly calm. The professor considers calling Mr. Wen to handle the situation, but his colleague seems to think it's a bad idea. The other professor looks worried, agreeing they should notify Mr. Wen but advising caution. With the challenge set, a senior student officially begins the 1 versus 4 simulation battle. Xu Tui flashes a confident smirk, completely unfazed by the odds stacked against him. The moment the match starts, his 4 opponents charge forward in a coordinated rush. They immediately surround him, executing a pre-planned pincer movement to overwhelm him. The 4 students unleash a simultaneous barrage of elemental and energy attacks from all sides. A powerful energy blast seems to strike Xu Tui dead on, engulfing him in the attack. But through the smoke, his eyes are sharp and focused as he prepares his own counter-move. He effortlessly deflects the attacks and sends 4 precise energy projectiles back at his opponents. The student in the hat easily blocks the projectile with a shield, revealing it was all part of their trap. He grins, explaining their initial assault was merely a feint to draw Xu Tui's attention. The student reveals their true strategy is to keep Xu Tui completely off balance. He explains that by disrupting an opponent's center of gravity, their mental defenses will crumble. The team leader shouts that a single moment of weakness is all they need to secure victory. Seizing the opportunity, the 4 students launch a perfectly synchronized, all-out attack. Their plan is to relentlessly target his feet, giving him no ground to stand on and no time to recover. A massive explosion of elemental energy erupts, seemingly consuming their target completely. The students stand back, watching the smoke clear as they wonder if their powerful assault worked. Two of them begin to gloat, certain they've punished Zhu Tui for his arrogance in challenging them. But a calm voice from above interrupts their celebration as Zhu Tui hovers on a platform of blue energy. The students look up in utter shock, baffled as to how he learned such an advanced skill he'd never used before. He calmly unleashes a volley of energy projectiles, turning their own strategy against them. The four students are struck down in an instant, their coordinated assault completely shattered. Zhu Tui looks down on his defeated opponents, who are left scattered and crying out on the arena floor. The crowd of onlookers, including the two professors, stares in absolute disbelief at the swift outcome. Spotting a familiar face in the crowd, Zhu Tui floats over to greet the stunned Mr. Wen. The professors scramble to manage the aftermath, confirming that a medical team is on its way. Zhu Tui cheekily explains he's just following orders, attending the class Mr. Wen's warning forced him into. The other students realize the situation is more complicated, sensing a deeper conflict between Zhu Tui and the administrator. As a medic tends to one of the injured challengers, Mr. Wen's expression darkens with frustration. The medic delivers the bad news. All four students have fractured femurs, putting them out of action for weeks. Mr. Wen realizes the injured students will miss the ranking battle, while Zhu Tui savors his perfectly timed revenge. As medics carry away the four key first-year players, Zhu Tui mentally confirms he's successfully crippled his rival's team. A sinister smile spreads across his face, promising that this is just the start of his payback. He then ups the ante, challenging the crowd to a 1 versus 6 match and asking if anyone dares to face him. The other students hesitate, questioning if this is really training after he just took out 4 people in one go. Mr. Wen tries to regain control, ordering the crowd to break it up and focus on the upcoming ranking battle. Zhu Tui confronts the administrator, mockingly asking why he's being stopped from participating in the class he was forced to attend. The flustered Mr. Wen warns him to back off, insisting the warning was for his own good. Zhu Tui calls out the blatant double standard, questioning why his rivals can scheme against him while he's forbidden from retaliating. Leaning in close, he delivers a final, chilling promise that Mr. Wen will be forced to give back everything he's cost him. Mr. Wen watches Zhu Tui walk away, his face a mask of pure fury over the public humiliation. Elsewhere, a shadowy figure in an office calmly processes the news of Zhu Tui's bold counterattack. The man director Zheng Xiaohong confirms that Zhu Tui has successfully neutralized 4 of his key first-year students. He questions Mr. Wen on their department's overall strength, learning they have only 20 students in the top 100 rankings. The director then asks if their remaining forces are still enough to guarantee a first-place victory in the upcoming exam. With victory seemingly assured, he smirks, wondering why his subordinate is so worried about the freshman's retaliation. Mr. Wen admits his real fear isn't losing the top spot, but losing the valuable extraordinary quota tied to the competition. The director confidently reassures him, dismissing the quota as a trivial concern. He boasts that a 5th consecutive victory will give him enough political power to secure the quota, regardless of any opposition. His confidence restored, Mr. Wen bows deeply, his faith in his superior's master plan fully renewed. A flashback shows Zhu Tui's fierce promise to take first place in the upcoming assessment. The scene transitions back to the high-tech research institute where he's meeting his professor. Professor An gets straight to the point, asking about the rumor that he neutralized 4 of Mr. Wen's students. While eating, Zhu Tui admits he had to retaliate since his rivals were actively trying to sabotage him. She gives him her approval to fight back, but reminds him to stay within the official rules. With a mischievous grin, he cheekily asks what she would do if he decided to break those rules. Professor An pauses her meal, her expression unreadable as she considers his bold question. She gives him an intense look, instructing him to contact her immediately if he ever crosses that line. With a burst of fireworks, the day of the highly anticipated competition finally arrives. An announcer officially kicks off the freshman dragon and tiger battle, setting the stage for the main event. The announcer summons all the competitors to the massive arena for the opening oath. A student representative leads the pledge, promising a fair and impartial competition for all. In the stands, Zhu Tui's friend points out all the stares, but he just smirks, enjoying the attention. His friend questions his strategy of not registering, but Zhu Tui explains he's letting the situation simmer. Suddenly, the massive arena screen flashes, announcing Zhu Tui's first official match. A student reports to Mr. Wen that Zhu Tui is challenging the 84th ranked freshman from their own department. The student questions the strategy, wondering why Zhu Tui would target such a low-ranking opponent. Mr. Wen is baffled by the move, confused about Zhu Tui's true intentions. A bead of sweat rolls down his face as the administrator slowly pieces together the freshman's cunning plan. He slams his fist in fury, realizing he's been completely outmaneuvered and has fallen into a trap. In the ring, Shutui's opponent cries out in pain, clutching his leg as another student is sent flying. The match ends in an instant, leaving his challenger incapacitated on the floor as Mr. Wen watches in disbelief. Mr. Wen and his subordinate stare in horror, the gravity of Shutui's strategy slowly sinking in. A medic quickly assesses the damage, confirming a fractured femur that will require immediate surgery. The defeated student is wheeled away on a stretcher, another victim of Shutui's signature leg-breaking tactic. The subordinate grimly notes that another one of their key fighters is now out of the competition. Mr. Wen seethes with rage, finally understanding Shutui's plan is to systematically dismantle his entire department. His subordinate looks around in confusion, only to be told that Shutui has already moved on to the next ring. The news hits him hard as he realizes the terrifying efficiency of Shutui's rampage. He looks over just in time to see Shutui declared the winner of another match, his next victim already defeated. Shutui smirks, savoring the administrator's silent, seething frustration. Mr. Wen charges forward in a rage as another one of his students is taken out of the fight. He plants his feet, physically blocking Shutui's path as medics rush to the latest casualty. A dark shadow falls over the administrator's face, his fury mixing with a dawning sense of dread. Shutui calmly asks if Mr. Wen intends to personally intervene and teach him a lesson. He then subtly threatens him, suggesting Professor An would be happy to settle any disputes. Mr. Wen internally fumes, realizing the freshman is far more difficult to handle than he ever anticipated. Shutui plays innocent, claiming he's simply following the official rules of the ranking competition. He then mockingly challenges the administrator to issue another warning if he's truly breaking any rules. Backed into a corner, Mr. Wen completely changes his tune, desperately trying to de-escalate the situation. Shutui mocks the administrator's pathetic attempt at an apology, declaring it utterly worthless to him. Cornered and desperate, Mr. Wen grits his teeth and asks what it will take to end this public humiliation. With a deceptively friendly gesture, Shutui lays out his first simple demand: revoke the official warning. He then explains the warning came with a notice that his valuable student benefits were being cut. Shutui confidently states that once the punishment is gone, his benefits must be fully restored. Having laid out his terms, he turns his back on the administrator, leaving the decision entirely up to him. Mr. Wen tries to save face, claiming the university's rules are absolute and beyond his power to change. His internal monologue reveals his panic, realizing Shutui is intentionally backing him into an impossible corner. Out of options, the flustered administrator runs off to consult his superior, Dean Zheng. Shutui watches him flee, completely unfazed as another student approaches him in the now quiet arena. His friend points out he's only taken down 2 of the rival department's 15 key players. Shutui smirks, explaining his goal was never to beat them all, but to force their hand. He considers the possibility of them sending a truly powerful opponent to stop him. Elsewhere, a new challenger with a suitcase sees this as a perfect opportunity for some practice. The newcomer calls Mr. Wen, reassuring him that he has arrived to handle the situation. He confidently dismisses Shutui as a mere first year, completely underestimating his target. The scene shifts to a high-rise office, where the situation is being escalated. Mr. Wen reports to Dean Zheng, explaining Shutui's ultimatum to revoke the warning. The flustered administrator nervously confirms that the freshman is holding their department hostage. The dean grits his teeth, demanding to know if there's anyone in the entire freshman class who can stop him. Mr. Wen sweats, admitting that no one in the currents oversees training. A confident smirk spreads across Shutui's face as he realizes this ace was brought back just for him. He looks toward the arena, completely unintimidated and ready for the inevitable confrontation. Elsewhere in the stands, a group of senior students mock the current freshmen, unimpressed by their skills. One of the seniors scoffs, dismissing the current freshman talent as barely watchable. His friends note that the infamous Shutui has been suspiciously quiet all afternoon. Another student realizes that with all the top contenders out, no one is even trying for the title of freshman dragon. The gossip starts, revealing Shutui is in a direct power struggle with Director Wen. He explains that Shutui actually won, intimidating all of the rival department's top players into submission. The group of upperclassmen watches the arena, now understanding the drama unfolding below. The student reveals the conflict is really a proxy war between the mysterious and extraordinary departments. The scarred senior connects the dots, realizing Shutui's rampage is a calculated act of revenge. The stakes are revealed. The top department gets a massive research grant, making this a high-stakes political game. The scarred student shuts down the gossip, warning his friend not to stir up trouble with baseless rumors. A student in the crowd suddenly points to the screen, announcing that Shutui's name has just appeared. His friends watch the holographic display, speculating on which low-ranking student he'll target this time. but the student's eyes widen in shock as he spots another, far more formidable name on the list, Dai Lijun. The crowd murmurs as the legendary sophomore appears, realizing Mr. Wen has brought in his ace. Shutoi's friend begins to panic, questioning if he's actually insane enough to challenge a high ranker. Another student dismisses the idea, believing Shutui is strong but not desperate enough for such a reckless move. The crowd's attention shifts as Shutui calmly steps onto the arena stage, ready for his next match. Moments later, Dai Lijun follows suit, confirming the impending showdown between the two powerhouses. The scarred senior can't believe his eyes, wondering if the freshman is truly about to face the sophomore legend. The official announcement rings out, confirming the impossible. Shutui has challenged Dai Lijun, stunning the entire stadium. The two powerhouses stare each other down, setting the stage for an epic confrontation. The audience erupts, completely stunned by the unprecedented freshman versus sophomore showdown. The scarred upperclassman smirks, acknowledging the freshman's incredible nerve. The sophomore powerhouse rests a hand on his sword, his posture radiating confidence and battle readiness. Shutui, on the other hand, looks completely relaxed, his casual stance showing he's not intimidated in the slightest. The two combatants stand at opposite ends of the massive arena, the crowd eagerly awaiting the start of the legendary match. Word of the unprecedented match spreads across campus, stopping students in their tracks as they receive the update. The news hits one student particularly hard, his shocked expression revealing just how famous the sophomore ace really is. Others are just as stunned, finding it unbelievable that anyone, let alone a freshman, would dare to challenge the returning legend. The campus buzzes with excitement as the matchup is confirmed, the flying swordsman versus the returning sophomore legend, a fight no one wants to miss. Students across campus drop everything and sprint toward the arena, not wanting to miss the legendary showdown. Shutui's friends arrive in the stands, their expressions a mix of awe and worry for their companion. An official calls both challengers to the stage, giving them 3 minutes to prepare for the fight. Dai Lijun casually stretches, noting the sudden influx of spectators drawn by their match. He turns to his opponent with a smirk, confirming he's facing the infamous Shutui. The sophomore offers a final chance to back out, warning him of the consequences once the fight begins. His eyes glow with a menacing red light as he promises to show no mercy, revealing his deadly sincerity. Shutui recognizes the look, realizing he's facing another battle freak who thrives on real combat. Unfazed, he thanks his opponent for the warning and confidently accepts the challenge. Dai Lijun's grin widens, satisfied that his opponent's spirit makes his return to campus completely worthwhile. Dai Lijun points his sword forward, eager to begin the highly anticipated fight. But Shutui calmly interrupts, asking his opponent to wait just a moment. The sophomore scoffs, assuming it's a psychological trick and declaring that words won't affect him. Shutui smirks, subtly questioning if the battle freak's focus is so easily shaken. He then reveals the misdirection, clarifying that his message isn't for his opponent at all. Turning away from the sophomore, Shutui prepares to address someone in the audience. He calls out directly to a stunned Mr. Wen, announcing he has something to say before the fight begins. Pointing at the administrator, Shutui publicly vows to take first place and make him grovel before Professor An. The two fighters stand alone in the vast arena, the weight of the challenge hanging in the air. Meanwhile, spectators in the stands discuss forward, but his professor grabs him, ordering him to stop. The professor coldly instructs him to wait for Dai Lijun to handle the situation. His true plan is revealed. They'll only intervene after Shutui has been severely weakened. The student is appalled, but his superior insists this is their only path to victory. He's reminded that the department's success is far more important than any one person's honor. After a stern lecture, the student reluctantly accepts the ruthless strategy. Back in the arena, Dai Lijun watches his opponent, unaware of the cold calculations happening in the stands. Shutui smirks, questioning if his opponent will resort to the same cheap tricks as Mr. Wen. Dai Lijun's eyes glow with intensity, dismissing such tactics as useless on a real battlefield. Agreeing with a confident smile, Shutui summons 3 glowing orbs of energy, ready for a real fight. The referee raises his hand, preparing to officially begin the legendary showdown, but a bald administrator suddenly interrupts, calling a halt to the proceedings. He explains his concern that a freshman versus a sophomore could lead to serious injury, a loss for the school. The principal has therefore decided that Professor An and Mr. Wen will personally referee the match. A horned student in the crowd grins, intrigued by this unexpected turn of events. Professor An appears, her arms crossed and her expression stern, ready to officiate. She and Mr. Wen leap into the arena, taking their positions to oversee the high-stakes duel. Shutui smirks confidently as Professor An takes her position, ready to oversee the fight. On the other side, Dai Lijun and a grim-faced Mr. Wen prepare for the showdown. The two professors officially declare the match has begun, setting the rules for the high-stakes battle. Without hesitation, Dai Lijun explodes forward, his sword glowing with red energy as he launches the first attack. Xu Tui calmly observes the charge, internally noting the impressive intensity right from the start. He effortlessly dodges the strike and sends a volley of energy orbs back as a welcoming present. Dai Lijun expertly parries the projectiles, his blade a blur of red light as he deflects the counterattack. Xu Tui questions if the sophomore is holding back, but Dai Lijun coldly corrects his opponent's familiarity. The sophomore then offers a chilling promise to unleash his full power, if that's what the freshman desires. True to his word, Dai Lijun's entire body erupts with crackling red energy, preparing to show his true strength. Dai Lijun smirks, surprised by the freshman's unexpected display of a thunder attribute. The arena floor shatters as the sophomore unleashes another devastating wave of crimson energy. In the stands, Xu Tui's friends watch with growing concern as the battle rages on. The crowd is captivated by the half-hour-long showdown, with many betting on the seasoned sophomore to win. Even Professor An is thrown back by the sheer force of the clash, a clear sign that Xu Tui is on the defensive. Xu Tui grits his teeth, struggling to hold his ground against the overwhelming assault. Growing frustrated, he summons a defensive energy shield to block the relentless attacks. But the shield shatters instantly under a powerful strike, sending the freshman flying across the arena. He hits the ground hard, barely managing to catch himself before skidding to a stop. Battered and bruised, Xu Tui glares back at his opponent, his fighting spirit far from broken. Xu Tui internally admits his usual attacks are completely outmatched by the sophomore's raw speed and power. He glares, realizing Mr. Wen went to great lengths to find the perfect counter to his abilities. Dai Lijun taunts him for his hesitation, questioning why he suddenly stopped fighting back. The sophomore scoffs, declaring that a fighter who only dodges is unworthy of the freshman dragon title. Deciding to end the stalemate, Dai Lijun charges forward to deliver the final blow. But Xu Tui slams his hands on the ground, unleashing a new technique and promising it won't be that easy. The sophomore's blade cuts through the air, a blur of red energy as he closes the distance in an instant. A web of glowing blue lines erupts from the arena floor, a trap laid right in the path of the charging swordsman. Dai Lijun smirks, recognizing the move as a clever use of lightning energy but confident it won't be enough to stop him. Xu Tui reveals his true intent, explaining that a single moment of hesitation is all he needs to turn the tables. With a furious shout, Xu Tui unleashes a new unseen ability. A whip of pure spiritual energy lashes out, striking the sophomore and disrupting his focus. Dai Lijun cries out in agony as the mental attack courses through him, but he fights through the pain, refusing to be brought down by a freshman's trick. Fueled by rage, he launches himself into the air for a devastating final assault. His blade crashes down, but Xu Tui has already vanished, narrowly avoiding the powerful strike. The sophomore expertly deflects a massive energy construct hurled at him from across the arena. But the counterattack is swift, and a blast of energy catches Xu Tui squarely in the leg. The force of the blow sends him stumbling, completely breaking his stance. He drops to one knee, clutching his injured leg as the momentum shifts back to his opponent. Dai Lijun presses his advantage, holding his glowing blade to Xu Tui's throat. The sophomore offers a final choice, surrender or face the consequences, expressing disappointment in the fight. But Xu Tui smirks, calmly promising his opponent that the real battle is just getting started. Intrigued, Dai Lijun mockingly wonders if the freshman's bravado will hold up against his blade. Xu Tui remains perfectly still, his expression unreadable as he faces the imminent threat. Deciding to end it, the sophomore brings his crackling sword down for the finishing blow. But the blade stops dead in its tracks, halted by an invisible force just inches from its target. Dai Lijun's confident expression shatters into pure shock, unable to comprehend what just happened. He recognizes the freshman has somehow manifested a Vajra Tide force field, a powerful defensive technique. Themselves into the air, hurtling toward each other for a final, spectacular collision. A massive explosion of energy rocks the arena, completely engulfing both fighters in a blinding flash of light. The crowd holds its breath as the smoke clears, with Xu Tui's friends desperately trying to see who won the epic showdown. Dai Lijun stands alone on the arena floor, the dust settling from their epic clash. He admits his carelessness, realizing Xu Tui's signature attacks were just a clever distraction. Xu Tui calmly explains that there's no rule against turning a defensive skill into a winning move. With a look of respect, the sophomore powerhouse concedes the match, acknowledging the freshman's victory. The adrenaline fades, leaving Xu Tui visibly drained from the intense mental battle. Professor An rushes to his side and he confirms he's fine, just completely exhausted from the fight. She raises his arm in triumph, officially declaring him the winner for the entire stadium to see. In the stands, his friends erupt in celebration, amazed that he actually defeated a legendary second-year ranker. The arena's massive screen confirms his victory as the crowd chants his name in unison. The story jumps forward one day, focusing on a towering, futuristic building. In a hospital room, Shu Tui recovers from his battle, visited by two concerned friends. He tears into a pair of turkey legs, clearly making up for lost meals. His friends gently chide him, suggesting the newly crowned freshman dragon should have better table manners. He justifies his ravenous appetite by complaining about the terrible hospital food. Changing the subject, one of his friends excitedly asks him to guess their final rankings. Shu Tui pauses his meal, his cheeks puffed out as he considers her question. He casually guesses they landed somewhere in the high 80s and 90s. Offended by his lowball estimate, they reveal they actually placed 49th and 89th. The news stuns him, leaving him wondering how his friend's power level jumped so dramatically. They proudly explain their secret, a special organization that granted them access to valuable gene points. His friend is surprised he's never heard of the famous Myth of the Extraordinary Charity Organization. Shu Tui vaguely remembers the name from a file A Huang had given him. Seeing his interest, his friend eagerly invites him to join the group. He immediately gets suspicious, questioning if they were sent to recruit him, but she insists it was her own idea. He decides to table the discussion for now, brushing off the offer until a later time. Just then, a knock at the door interrupts their conversation, and he tells the person to enter. A professional-looking woman with long white hair walks into the hospital room. The visitor, another Miss An, politely asks to speak with Shu Tui privately. His friends quickly take their leave, and he thanks them for stopping by. Once they're alone, the woman pulls up a chair, ready to get down to business. She congratulates him, explaining his victory secured a massive 500 million in research funds for their department. Shu Tui humbly brushes off the praise, insisting he was just doing his duty. She tells him not to be modest, reminding him of his new title as the freshman dragon. She hands over his promotion file, promising a significant increase in his future benefits and potions. He's stunned by the numbers, realizing his new monthly allowance dwarfs his parents' entire yearly income. The woman pivots the conversation, telling him his own personal weaknesses are the real key to his future. She then asks for his honest assessment of his recent battle against Dai Lijun. A flashback to the intense fight plays as he admits Dai Lijun was a truly formidable opponent. He confesses that he only won by using his signature attacks as a distraction and weaponizing his defensive ability. She confirms his analysis, identifying his low physical strength as his greatest weakness for surviving real combat. With newfound determination, Shu Tui agrees to focus on overcoming his physical limitations. The two sit in the sterile hospital room, the conversation shifting to a new, more serious topic.